Do I have to start over again? No? Okay. Call this meeting to order and take the roll. So, in the room with me, I'm Phil Rubin, the mayor, Ralph Severini, right here. On the phone or Zoom, Chris Byer,
Here.
Bob Nadelberg,
I'm here.
and I know that both Sherry Jacobs and Carol will be along. Carol Hazelton, but they don't appear to be on yet. We do have a quorum, so we can begin, and then we'll just move a few things around until they're able to join. When you get a chance, Alicia, can you message the iPhones on there or the phone numbers on there, so we can change them to names in the future? There's 2 phone numbers on there.
No, I can message. I don't have.
In Zoom, you can do a chat.
I don't think they would see it if they're on the phone.
Oh, they're on the phone, good. Oops,
It's okay. Similar to-
genius move for me. Okay, so the first 2 items, were going to be covered by Sherry Jacobs, who, is not here yet. So we'll come back to those. I will give an update on the number 3, the fire station, for everyone. So for background, the Wasatch Fire District has come to us and asked if we would be supportive of helping them in erecting a temporary fire station so that they can have equipment and 24-hour staffing in place early 2024. And we said, absolutely happy to help. We have been working with them on how best to go about that. We were thinking about, would we do some fundraising along the SR 248 corridor, so that we could get the equipment in and the station built. We got some engineering done, so we know roughly what it's gonna cost to do it in a temporary location. I had a conversation with Chief earlier this week, and he thinks he would like to try and put the temporary station at the same site as we are proposing the future permanent station some 3+ years down the road. So we talked about that, and I explained the challenges to why we didn't go there initially. And he thought that, and the main challenge being that the flattest portion of the land that required the least amount of work is actually in the UDOT right away. And he felt that he could approach UDOT and potentially get them to allow it, since it's a temporary situation. So we're waiting on that from the chief. And once I hear back from him on their decision, we'll come back and talk about what needs to be done to move the temporary fire station forward. I do want to comment that Prop 9 did pass in Wasatch, and some people may be uncomfortable about why would we consider helping the fire station move ahead quickly when 3+ years from now, they're going to build a permanent facility. And the answer to that is health and safety of the community up and down the corridor. I mean, they're 12 minutes away today. If we get them in, they'll be 3 minutes away, give or take. Maximum distance across the whole SR 248 corridor that Wasatch is up from Black Rock all the way down to, or up to the other end at Tuhey, is about 6 minutes. All right, the data is very clear, like in a case of a heart attack type event, that basically every minute delay increases your risk significantly. So that's a great, if we could get in early, that helps. The other thing that happens with this is it becomes an official station. It has a number. This is Carol joining, by the way, so you can get her in. Sorry. It'll have a number, it'll be in the records, in that fire district publishes, which means that the insurance companies will see it. And those of us that have already been dropped more than once for being in the wildland urban interface, and or being charged a fairly high rate on, fire insurance, portion of our property insurance, should be able to see benefit from that. And that benefit, will take some of our cost out, personal costs out. So there's a couple things in there that make it a win-win. So we're excited about being able to support the fire district and our neighbors along the SR 248 corridor. This is not just for Hideout. This goes all the way up, the Browns Canyon and beyond towards the hospital. In fact, Park City Hospital will be inside the 5-mile distance from the station as well. So it gets, if you have an EMS event and you need to be collected and taken to the hospital, you're taking a lot of time out of that with the temporary station than you would if we were waiting for 3+ years from the current station across the Jordan now. So we're excited about it, but we're still sorting out exactly how we're going to get this in place. And I'll come back and talk about one of the things we're working on is a temporary building, which I'll cover when I get back to item 4. Is Sherry here yet? No, okay. I do want to acknowledge that Carol Hazelton, can you acknowledge that you're present?
Yes, I'm here.
So Carol's one of our council people, and we're just going to get it on the record that she has joined the meeting.
And Mayor, on the fire station, would that be staffed 24 hours?
24 hours, 7 days a week, 365. So, they become a full, it's only, they'll have two personnel per shift around the clock. With backups from the pool for, vacation and sick days and stuff like that, but fully staffed. Pretty exciting and a really, good thing for everybody. So once we get the final, and with the new location, we have to come back and tweak the numbers a little bit. So if that's successful, then we'll do that, and then we'll figure out how we're gonna make it work. Obviously, the fire district has some funds to support this. They've already bought a new engine for us. So they're serious about it, and so are we. So item 4 is, there is, part of you may have noticed that there's a trailer sitting at the Ross Creek entrance. Sorry? Oh, Chris, your hand up? Sorry, Chris, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Hey, good evening, Mayor. I was a little slow getting my hand up, so thank you. Before you move on to number 4, what was the actual fundraising update? I know that the fire station brings a lot. Can I finish my question? I know the fire station. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not in the room with you, so if you could just give me the moment to finish my question. I know the fire station brings a lot of benefits to the residents here. You mentioned that already. What I haven't heard yet is on item 3, what is the fundraising effort update, and how are we paying for this?
Well, that was an approach we had, Chris, that we might test the interest from the surrounding communities and whether or not they would be willing to donate towards helping move the project forward. Because it was a temporary station, there needed to be some funding for it. So the thought was we might go out and reach to all of the benefited homes and businesses along the 248 corridor that might want to contribute to it. We have had interest and acceptance, not acceptance, but willingness to generate some funds to help move the project forward from 2 subdivisions already outside of the town of Hideout. And we're getting ready to, we were thinking about reaching out, getting ready to reach out to the rest of the community, see where their interest levels lie. So at the moment, there is no fundraising going on. But that is an option should, what the fire district have available to develop the site not be sufficient to get it finished out. So.
Okay, so you're saying the fire district has money, they're providing the funding to develop the site, the basic funding, is that what I just heard, or? I'm really very unclear about how we're paying, how this is being paid for, that's all. And I know we're gonna be presented with some invoices coming up immediately after that, and so it's gonna be the same question. So if you can just expound a little bit on the, what is the cost, and how have you and the fire district and whomever else is involved had a chance to really, you know, lay out the costs and try to figure out, you know, how we're going to be able to do this financially?
We're exploring options, as I said, one of which is potentially reaching out to the constituents and see if they wanted, not just the town, but the whole corridor, see if they're willing to support the effort, and financially. The district has some money that can be applied to that, roughly $500,000 to get it set up. And at the moment, we're exploring the new site, that changes what the fire district might be willing to bring forward. So I don't have an answer for you, Chris, on how it's all going to be funded. And we're still working through that. So the intent is to determine how much can be covered by the fire district, understand the gap, and decide whether or not we have enough interest from the community to help close the gap. If we do, then we can move it forward. If we don't, then we can't. So I'd like to be able to.
I heard $500,000 as a number. So maybe we should move on to the next items then, Mayor, because it's maybe that this isn't as far along as I was hoping it would be, or thinking it would be, given the things that were said in the last council meeting about it. But yeah, maybe we could just move on to the next things, and we can talk about the specific invoices that are being presented that relate to the fire district, and how does that fit in with the overall financial obligation that we're taking on now, and how are we paying?
Okay, so there is, you know, as I was mentioning before, there is a trailer sited at the state park entrance. You may have seen that is to be the housing unit for the staff, staffing the fire station. We also need to put in a garage type structure that would house the actual fire equipment. That structure for buy and install is about $56,000, as it says here. That structure is intended to be bought at some point by the fire district, because they want to take it with them, because their idea is to roll out the next station after ours the same way. And so the intent is for them to purchase that building. To try and shorten the lead time, we are looking at, once we understand all the funding approach and how it's going to work, that we would put a deposit amount down for that building, recognizing that we would get paid back for that, or if the fire district, because of the position that the temporary station was in, we thought we might be fundraising, but because of the thoughts we have about moving it to the more permanent location, or near the more permanent location, that's not clear yet. But we do need to help get in the queue for that building to get built. It's, you know, a couple of months lead time, so, and that's what the deposit's for. So I'm looking for, once we know the funding approach, in case that happens and it's figured out before, our next council meeting, that I could go ahead and release the deposit to get it started. So that's what that line item 4 is about.
Okay, so that's the Steelmaster invoice we have, $56,460.
Yeah, well, that's the quote for the new building and installation. The deposit amount is $11,200, $292.
Okay, that's not the trailer that has been parked, you know, at
No,
the Bellevue
this is
entrance.
This is the garage structure that would be put in place next to the trailer to house the actual fire and EMS equipment.
So you're saying that this Steelmaster building could be, it's temporary, right? It can be then taken by the fire district for their next temporary fire station. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it can be taken, everything except the pad.
Okay,
So there would be a bit of cost associated with the concrete pad underneath it, but the rest of it could be picked up, dismantled, put on the back of a truck and moved somewhere else.
okay. Do we have like a reimbursement agreement with the fire district whereby
That once we get the funding figured out, that's right, Chris, because they've already said that they're willing to pay for it at some point, so we just have to figure out how the funding is gonna happen.
okay, so basically Hideout is fronting the money to the fire district?
So
Is
we
that
would
what
front the-
I'm to understand in this presentation?
Yeah, to get it started, we would front the down payment until they could release the funds.
And what budget line item are we getting this out of in our budget?
It would be a separate line item. Again, we don't know if it would come out of the fire fund if we decide that we're gonna fundraise. Again, till I have the funding, Chris, I can't tell you. It's simply, to be determined until we finalize the funding methods.
So then how can we agree to pay
We can
56?
take it out, we can take it out of, we can take it out of general fund and be repaid once we get the funds coming in. So it just depends on how we're gonna fund it.
Okay, so you're asking us to,
Thing
agree.
is,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you to allow me to execute the agreement when we understand the funding, should it happen before the next council meeting, so we don't lose 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks getting it started. Because they can't move the equipment in until they have a building. And that's, it's a lead time issue, so, it's a council choice. You wanna, if you're willing to do an extra meeting, once we understand the funding through the holiday period, we can do that. That's fine, or we could trust that we'll get a plan together that ensures that the town is not out $11,292 from public money.
The pad though is the only piece that is kind of left behind. Is that? What-
Yeah, the infrastructure that goes in, like for the water and sewer and gas and power, that all can be easily tied, we're thinking now it'd be easily tied to the new building when the new building goes in. So there's really, all that work is, adaptable to the future. The pad, because it's in a temporary location, would have to be torn out.
Or used for something else.
Well, yeah, except that if we go where the chief wants to go, it's in the UDOT right away, so we probably have. A lot of that's gonna get paved in the road. It might could be done, Ralph. I don't know how the layout's gonna look up there. It could very well be tied into the road network that goes into servicing the new station. We'll see what we can do, but to me, that's the one thing that could get cut down or, potentially not reused.
And when do we get it? When do you think we'll get all this information accumulated?
Chief's working on it. I'm hoping we get some feedback in the next week or so, but I don't know.
But Mayor, who did you say is working on it? I didn't hear that.
Fire chief
The chief. Okay,
Is working.
Chief Hales?
on the Chief Hales is working on whether or not UDOT will allow us to use that space in a temporary way.
Okay. Look, and I don't know how my other council member colleagues feel, but this is such an important item for the town. And right now it feels like there are so many variables that are we don't have specifics on. I would like to hear when the information is compiled and we have it all, kind of the whole proposal together. I'd actually really like to hear that and understand, where we stand in terms of funding. I mean, we're supposed to be belt tightening here. And even though this is hugely important, and all of your reasons, Mayor, for wanting this are very valid, and I agree with them. I just would like to see such an important something as important as a fire station and quick EMS support and, town property where we have a temporary station. I'd really like the council to, be kept in the loop on how things are going, and to be able to listen in and make, help with, all of the questions and to really make sure that we're doing this quickly, but also, as fiscally responsibly as we can. So, and because we haven't gotten any information in between meetings, between public meetings. It feels like, I think you're working hard on it. I think the chief is working hard on it. But I would argue that we should be kept up on what's happening. And I think the best way to do it is perhaps a special meeting once, if you do get all the information pulled together before our next regular meeting, which is, by the way, our retreat, I think, in January. But if you've got that stuff pulled together, I would, ask if we could do a special council meeting and cover it all.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Carol, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is exactly where is that concrete pad going to be located? That's my first question. My second question is, do the residents of Midway and Heber City, other entities that are in Wasatch County, do they have to go through this fundraising effort, or why is it that just Hideout and the 248 corridor has to go through raising funds to pay for this? I mean, we just had huge increases in our taxes, and it would seem to me that part of those taxes should be paying for this. So that's my second question.
I'll answer your second question first, Chris. Sorry, Carol. The permanent station is 3+ years away, based on projections on sales tax revenue from the newly passed Prop 9. So this is an opportunity, if we are interested in improving the health and safety of the community, speeding it up. If we can make this work, then we would get a 3-year jump on those benefits. So that's why we're looking at it. They can't build it twice without some help, at least to some degree. So we're trying to figure out how much help they need, and is there a return for that? But certainly from a health and safety standpoint, response time standpoint, there's a significant improvement in that. And it also improves the information that goes to the insurance companies about our distance from support, which generally results in a reduction in the fire premium portion of our homeowners. So that's the question that we're getting ready to ask the community are you willing to support it to move it forward quickly? And we don't have the answer to that yet because we haven't gone out to the community and asked. I've been approached by, as I said earlier, several subdivisions on the 248 corridor, not inside of Hideout, that have expressed an interest in supporting it. But because they see the value. So we know that there are interested parties in helping make this thing come forward. And we haven't been to, you know, a number of the HOAs, we haven't been to the businesses yet, the people who are gonna benefit from it. So it becomes a community effort and a community choice. Do we want to help accelerate the presence of fire safety officials in our area, fire EMS fire officials in our area, responders in our area, I should say officials, responders in our area, prior to 3+ years it's gonna take for them to get the sales tax revenues they need to, build a permanent station. So that's question one. Question two is, the pad's gonna go in one of two places. It's either gonna go temporarily, you know, along with the temporary station, somewhere near the top of the, Ross Creek entrance, or it's gonna go across the street at the triangle parcel between Deer Mountain and Clay that the town owns. That's the intended permanent location, and that's where the chief is trying to get it set up.
So what you're saying is that is where the permanent building will go?
Yes, on a corner of that lot. Yep.
Okay. Because what I remember that when we had discussed it previously, that it was going to go near the maintenance building, but that's
Yeah.
decided not to do that.
It doesn't work down there. When we went down and did the groundwork, soil sampling and so forth, we realized there was no way to do it without it interfering with snow removal activities, so we had to look for a new spot.
Okay, thank you for that.
It would be good to know what our maximum liability financially would be if we move into this, you know, so is it, you know, 56,000, is it 11,000? Do you have a rough idea?
I don't know, because depending on where it goes and whether or not we're going to have to fundraise and what we think the projections for fundraising are, certainly there'll be enough. I mean, I believe there will be more than enough to cover the building. But you know, it's until you see funds coming in, you don't know.
The only numbers I picked up was if you're, so on the insurance side at least, I mean, you know, you can't put a price tag on someone's life or emergency, you know, hospitalization. But, you know, the distance that you get credit for within the fire station is 5 miles. That's the first level. The second level is 25 miles. And that's how they do a 10-point classification of any town, of which we probably should get that data at some point anyway, but that's where the savings occur. So right now, if you're in Rustler, which is the furthest end of town, it's 8.8 miles from the fire station. So that would mean if the fire station gets built at that location, everyone would be in the under 5 mile radius that you get the first and highest level credit on your insurance. I don't know, you know, it's gonna vary, but the variations usually, from what I know, are 8 to 10% or 7, you know, so if you're paying $2,500, 10% is about $250, you know, or maybe $200 to $250 per year.
So as I said, at this time, we're not able to bring it forward in full detail because it's still being evaluated and reviewed. So I accept, Chris, your thoughts and happy to try and set something up as soon as we have a direction that we can see if we can get enough council members available to have a meeting and bring everybody up to speed. Well, even if we don't, we can still bring whoever's available up to speed through electronic means and try and get a meeting to confirm the next steps. So.
Mayor,
We'll
sorry.
We'll table number 4 until we have the final plans in place.
That sounds good, but can I ask one further question?
Yes,
These parcels that are potential locations of the temporary fire station, are they currently zoned as residential? And do we need to, get something moving with the planning commission?
My understanding, I don't know if Thomas is on, but I know that he has been working with them to get an application in so that they can move forward. And I think they're expecting that to go to planning commission in January.
All right, good. Thanks, Molly.
thank you, Bob. All right, I'm gonna, if there's no more questions on this, I'm gonna drop back to items, 1 and 2. Because Sherry has joined the meeting, so welcome, Sherry.
Thank you.
If you would be so kind as to do a quick review of the blanket drive, it looked like the letter I saw was relatively successful.
Yeah, it was great. The town of Hideout really stepped forward. We collected about 120 blankets and about $500 to $600 in monetary donations. My committee, Ann Bloomquist, Allison McKinnon, and Valerie Quibido, and plus Jan McCosh did a really great job getting the word out. And the town really stepped up and brought a ton of blankets, and they were very surprised when we showed up with that many. They were not expecting that at all. So it was really nice to see that everyone come together for something like that, something important.
Thank you
So
for
it worked well.
Thank you and your team for putting that together. It's a very worthwhile cause.
Yeah, it was,
Good for everybody.
that's great.
And the presentation they gave last meeting was also great, very, very useful for everyone to understand that that resource is available.
And they still need, I mean, anybody can drop blankets out there anytime.
Yeah. Like all organizations that do work like that, you're welcome to donate at any time.
Exactly.
You don't have to wait for the recruitment process.
No, we'll figure something else out to do in the spring for another worthwhile cause. So if anyone has any great ideas on that.
Any questions for Sherry? Okay, item 2 is, we have a little resolution that we put together. As Sherry has at the end of, in early January, is no longer going to be on the council.
No, I'm sad.
So we put together honorary resolution and appreciation for outstanding public service by Sherry Jacobs. And it says, whereas Sherry Jacobs has served as town council member since November of 2021 and a creator and leader of the Hideout Community Engagement Committee, and whereas Sherry Jacobs has provided exceptional service and counsel in her leadership positions, and whereas Sherry Jacobs has brought respect, honor, and integrity to the town of Hideout by leading by example, exhibiting the highest levels of diligence, and maintaining a superior moral character, and whereas Sherry Jacobs has volunteered numerous hours, incurred personal sacrifice, and exhibited outstanding community spirit in her service of bringing the community and the extended region physically together, and whereas Sherry's sense of energy, graciousness has enriched those fortunate enough to know and work with her, and whereas Sherry's unwavering commitment, willingness, and ability to understand and respond to the concerns of the people of Hideout has made a substantial contribution to the betterment of the town of Hideout and its residents in the region. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council does hereby thank Sherry Jacobs for her dedication, enthusiasm, and outstanding public service.
Wow, thank you.
Here, here.
Nice. You guys, I really appreciate that. And I've really enjoyed working with all of you, and I feel like I've learned so much. I'm happy to continue doing the community engagement committee if you wish me to.
We love for that.
And keep doing fun things for the town as well as worthwhile causes, because I really do enjoy that. And so you haven't seen the last of me.
That's good. I'm glad we're not.
Thank
It's
you.
been great to have you, and thanks for all the work you've done for all of us.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate it.
okay. So that's your,
And good luck to Jonathan. He's gonna be great.
Your 2 minutes of fame. It's over now. Okay, we're gonna move on to item 5. So there are,
To go, but
that's understood.
thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Bye. Is Jack?
Thank
gonna
you,
be
Sherry.
On Thursday nights, once a month, yeah.
It's discussion of possible approval to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Electrical Alliance for an amount not to exceed $19,802 for light poles. So we have 2 light poles at this is for 4 light poles, I believe. There are 5 in the order, but one is for a developer's picking up that one, but, so we have 2 light poles here at the town hall that provide insufficient lighting in the evening, especially for people leaving late, and I want to replace those, and then we're getting 2 more that can be used for the fire station or can be used for replacement of other poles as they meet the end of their useful life. And it's cheaper to buy them in bulk, hence the 5 purchase, as opposed to 1 at a time. So, and that's, it's in our budget, we can handle that, but
Where do we store the spare, so to speak, or spare?
yeah, they'll sit in the public workshop until we're ready for them. And they may go to the fire station once we get that figured out. We may be able to use at least one there, maybe 2, and we'll deal with the spare some other time in the future when we have those needs. But I think just 1 for the fire station and 1 spare is probably sufficient. So because it's a bulk order, individually, they're not above the purchase limit, but because it's a bulk order and exceeds 15,000, that's my limit. So it's coming to you as council to let me cover the cost of those.
You need a motion?
I need a motion if there's no questions.
So moved.
Let me make the motion, Bob, and thank you.
Yeah, hey, Bob, before we go on, Mayor, these are $3,300 a piece? These light poles?
They're like 4,400 a piece or something like that, Chris.
Oh, so we're saving quite a bit by buying 6. So they're saving $1,100 each if we buy in bulk, is what you're saying?
I'm saying we're saving versus buying them individually. We're not, the light poles have nothing to do with the $1,100 above it. They're a totally separate topic. Nothing to do with the Master Arch buildings.
Wait, I just did the math. I did 19,802 and divided by 6, right? Because we're talking about 6
5.
light poles.
5. Divided by 5.
Okay. So we're getting 5 light poles. We need 2.
Yeah.
We need 2, we're getting 5.
So 19,000 is our portion of, that's 4 poles. 5 were ordered, so that the amount would be divided by 5. Town would take 4, and 1 developer has already asked to buy 1. That's why we bought the 5th. So that cost in the 19,802 is not the developer's cost. That's separate. So that's the town's. So they're $5,000 a piece, roughly.
And these light poles, there are lights that hang off them. I don't know what they look like. I have no idea. Can't tell. But
They are dark sky compliant. They were approved by Thomas and from a planning perspective.
okay,
So they meet our town requirements.
okay. And they will sufficiently increase the lighting, like around the town hall is where you want to replace
Yeah,
them?
it's really where, yeah. And you walked out of here at night, you know how dark it is.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So, and it's unsafe, I think, especially in the winter.
And then I didn't hear where you said you're gonna store the extras
So we'll go down we'll sit at the, Public Works building.
in the shop. They have room in the shop for them.
Yeah,
Where else would we put them? So let's say, I mean, what other light poles do we have in town that potentially would need replacement in the next couple of years?
well, we have, um, we have subdivisions now that have light poles, that we inherit. So it's potentially, those can go out once they're up. People like them. In fact, I'm already getting calls for them to be lit. Even though the, Rocky Mountain Power hasn't pulled power to them yet completely, but they're installed. So there's those. There are also, poles, you know, as we go down the road, the sort of the lantern looking things that may or may, you know, the ones from here we'll try and reuse, but those things are wearing out. So we'll have to decide where we think they're best needed. But it made sense to buy, it makes sense to buy them in bulk. It makes sense, since all the costs ever do is go up. So,
As long as we can have, you know, future use,
I think there's
value there.
so. Other question? All right, then I made a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement for an amount not to exceed 19,802 for light poles.
Okay, now we'll so move.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, Carol,
Yes,
thank you. Chris,
Yes,
thank you. Ralph, yes. Can you say that louder, Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Bob,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, item 6. That's a Thomas item. Is Thomas with us? All right, so
I am.
Thomas and Polly, I guess both can talk us through that.
Sure. Do you want me
So-
to just quickly give you a rundown, Mayor?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. So you all certainly remember Ben Locke. They originally petitioned for annexation back in May of 2023. They were moving through the process with the Planning Commission and ultimately decided to rescind that proposal for annexation. And they had to work through some things with regard to building permits and some site planning and concept planning that they wanted to finalize. They ultimately resubmitted in September of 2023, and we're still working through some detailed revisions to their concept plans. And ultimately, we had scheduled a public hearing for October 12th. They still needed a little bit more time to clean up some of their drawings for presentation, and ultimately recommended that they come in the following month. They weren't able to make that either. They were still working through some projects, through some revisions on their projects. And so our recommendation, we've coordinated with them, is to deny this annexation petition, this consideration for annexation. And if they need to reapply, they can. They wouldn't have to change anything substantively, but this would ensure that the public noticing meets the criteria of the Utah state statute. So ultimately, this would be a denial of that consideration for annexation, knowing they can resubmit down the road when they can meet those deadlines, those public hearing noticing requirements.
Thanks, Tom. So council probably remembers that with annexation application, a timeline starts per state code. And because these guys have been in and out enough times and have stopped and started, the dates are beginning to get fuzzy.
That's right.
And we don't want to have an issue. So the recommendation from our legal partners, Polly specifically, is, and agreed with Benlock's legal, that we're gonna deny it, and when they're ready to go, they'll start again, and that'll start the timeline again. So Polly, I don't know if I said it right or not, so.
No, that's exactly right. And I spoke with their legal counsel about it, and he understood and asked us to, go ahead and deny the petition. And when they're ready to come back, then they can. And I just
Yeah.
also throw kudos out to Alicia, who's been really paying close attention to this and making sure that she's fulfilling her duties as clerk and watching that clock. And so I appreciate her diligence on that as well.
So what I need then, if there's no questions from council, a motion to deny the petition to annex from Benlock Ranch.
I'll move.
Second,
Okay, the move was Carol, I think.
Yes.
The second was Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. Ralph,
Yes.
thank you. Chris,
Yes.
Bob,
yes,
and Carol.
Yes.
Thank you all. Benlock. Benlock's annexation petition has been denied. Okay, items 7 and 8, a little bit of background. As you may know, we just had an election. And that's because we're at a 2-year cycle. As our members per council are staggered, some on, they're all on 4-year terms, but they're staggered 2 years apart so that we don't turn over the entire council at one time. Well, the same thing goes for the planning commission. Additionally, one of the planning commission members is Jonathan Gunn, who was just recently elected to our council. So his position becomes available on the planning commission. So we have 2 items to look at, discuss this with Tony Matisek, who's the planning commission leader. One is to select one of the alternates from the planning commission to replace Jonathan's term, which ends in the end of 2025. So 2 more years. And the other part of this is to, after checking with the members whose terms were up or are coming up, Rachel Cooper, Donna Turner, and Tony all have agreed to continue to serve on the planning commission. And I am recommending both their renewal as well as the appointment of one of the alternates, Joel Pieper, to become a regular commissioner to fill Jonathan's term. And since those appointments are made with the advice and consent of council, that's what we're doing on those items tonight. I'm looking for your support to support Tony and the rest of the team in moving forward.
Well, Mayor, I'm delighted that we have so many planning commissioners who want to continue on, and I think this is wonderful. And I am fully supportive of making Joel a regular voting member.
I'd second that. So
Okay.
same feelings. You guys have done a great job. And do we have anybody in the wings for a backup?
So we have 1 alternate still remaining, and we will start a search for a second alternate as a result of our agreement to make these changes tonight. We'll get a notice out looking, in fact, Jonathan is working on a survey for the community to try and help us better understand the talent in the community. He'll be bringing that forward once he's on board, but we'll hopefully stir up some interest from some folks and get another person who's interested in being an alternate on the planning commission. So Chris is okay, Ralph is okay, Carol.
I'm fine
Okay.
with it. I think thank them for being on the planning commission, and I'm great that they will continue.
Thank you. And Bob?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Thank you. Just so council knows, Bob is suffering from a flu-like illness, and that's why his comments are so short tonight, because he's hanging on for dear life. So we appreciate fighting it to be here with us.
I sacrifice everything for the town. Plus, I don't want the meeting to go 9 hours. Thanks, guys.
It's the air on the plane, you know?
No, I get first crack at the air. You guys get all my leftovers. I don't know what to tell you.
So, okay, so thank you. Thanks again to all the planning commissioners who have agreed to take another term. And thanks for Joel for being both an alternate and willing to step up. And thanks to Jonathan for his time on the planning commission. And so they do a great job for us. They do a lot of work. So we're grateful to have.
Hey, Mayor, I just want to point out Jan posted in the chat. She's already been contacted by someone who would like to apply as an alternate. So that's good news.
Yeah. So but like we do for all of these, we put out a notice, we have a cutoff date. And based on, those that come in, if you remember, we've done this before, we have them come to council, talk a little bit about their background and what's driving their interest. And then we make a selection. So we'll do the same thing. Okay. Let's move on to number 9. And that is an adjustment to the fee and rate schedule, including electrical permitting fees, remodel fees, and making technical corrections. I think that was looked at briefly at a prior meeting, but now has been sharpened up based on our comments from the last meeting. And I don't know who's going to present that. I don't know if that's Katie or Jan, so whoever it is, speak up.
Let me give Katie comments.
Katie's done the work on this, and I believe she's on. I'm happy to pick up the conversation if she's not on.
She's showing on.
She might not be able to unmute herself. There you go.
Okay.
Katie, I think you're mute now.
Yes, I wasn't prepared to talk through this. I presented it for about 5 to 8 minutes last month. If you give me a minute, I can pull up the information. Basically, I mean, if you look at this, what we did do, going through what we did last month, the plan review fee, what we wanted to do was change the plan review fee, go down. This is just a change of permit. The plan review fee, we found that we were a little bit higher than other towns. So what we decided to do is we went and did some investigative work and found out that to be better in line with other towns, we did change our building fee remodel permit costs. One of the examples we had pulled, if we had done it the way we had before, it would have been about $20,000, which just wasn't acceptable and wasn't reasonable. And the new one would result in about $1,100. So we've adjusted them. They're in line with all the other towns, and we feel this is more appropriate for the town of Hideout.
Okay.
With the same with the electrical and mechanical, this is new. What we did do here is we did do an analysis of how much it does cost us. The time worked from the contractors that we do have coming in to look at the inspection as well as the admin time. And we were very close to what other towns charge. We were actually a little bit less than other towns. So what we did was we put the application fee at $50 and the reinspection fee at the $407, and the 1% value of the surcharge remains unchanged with anyone else. And then we took the graduating scale similar to other towns. So then we would be able to have comparables and we could justify the costs associated with these that the town incurs.
Okay. I think those are the,
Yeah, those were the two primary, the other one. I think what we did last month, we went through all of this, everyone understood the changes and agreed with them, but I don't think we had the formal resolution from Polly. So we said this month we would just present the formal resolution from Polly for signature based upon our conversation last month.
okay,
And I also threw in two other changes just to highlight them since you guys did talk about this last month. One was just explain, stop right there.
go.
Keep going down just a little bit more. I think it was on the next page. It was red. Oh, there we go. So I just clarified, there's a lot of reference to the escrow fees. And so I just made it clear that what the escrow fees are being held to pay for. So, I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing I changed was there was another fee that had to do with a commercial plan review, which I think is up higher. And state law requires that to be 0.65%. So I just updated ours. There we go. To make sure that just to make sure we're in compliance with the state code.
0.65% or 60,
Ooh.
65%?
0.65. Isn't it? Wait. I think it might be 65%.
I believe it's 65%, Polly.
It is 65% because it's just the building permit fee. So you have a
Correct.
building permit fee of, let's say, $10,000, and then you would have that plan review fee,
Okay,
65%.
okay, so that's the fee changes. This is the resolution.
Yeah, one question, Katie, so on one piece we did a bottoms up analysis and the one we didn't? Is that the way I'm reading what you were saying before?
Well, we did an analysis on the cost, what the cost would have been if it was structured the way it was set up to structure, I believe, on the remodel. We haven't had a remodel. So that's why we started looking at this a lot more closely because we knew one was coming. So we looked at it and we said, boy, with the cost of the remodel, with what we had in there as the plan cost, it exceeds what the cost would have been. So we started looking into it and we started saying, okay, here's what our cost would be. Let's look at what other towns would be because we know we're nowhere near what we had in there previously. So we did look at our costs associated with what we do with that, but then we also tagged it with the other towns, specifically as it related to some mechanical work and some tape sealing and things like that. We did do a bottoms up analysis of that.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. And in terms of the spread from the other towns that that you did the review on, do we fit in the middle? We fit at one end of the spectrum or another? Where do we land?
Most of them are very similar with the same graduating scale. So a lot of towns must utilize, I think it was Park Cities, because when we looked at a few towns, they were very similar, if not identical. Kathleen Hopkins did the analysis on that for the other towns.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for council? If not, I'm looking for a motion repealing and replacing the fee schedule to include electrical permitting fees, update remodel fees, and make technical corrections as discussed in both Katie's and Polly's review.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ralph. You a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. Chris,
Yes,
you okay? Thank you. Bob, you all right?
Yep, yes.
Carol
Yes.
and Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for that. All right, item 10, discussion of the upcoming council retreat to be held on January 11th, 2024. I'll start by saying, I think Alicia sent you all a note. Because of the way we've got some outside people coming in to help us with this retreat, the agenda is still being finalized. Jan can talk about that. But we are going to have to find another date in January to have the January meeting. We can't squeeze it in, have the retreat, and then go into a council meeting that night. It doesn't work with the way the agenda is shaping up. So, we need to identify and make a motion to change our regular meeting and any public hearings associated with that to a different date. So, it's typically we would do it, I mean, we've had a history of at least penciling in the fourth Thursday of the month as a potential alternate date for our meetings, if we ever needed a second meeting. I don't know how that works for people. I know Carol's got some conflicts there, so we may have to find another date if we can't get a quorum. I don't know, did you get anything, Alicia, from council members on their availability prior to the meeting?
No, I just had to come prepared to discuss.
Okay, so let me throw some dates out, and people wouldn't mind opening up their calendars. We'll test the waters. So,
Well, the next Thursday after the,
is
is the 18th?
yeah, but that's the planning commission.
Okay,
So
right.
we're trying to compete with that. So, but we could do it, the 16th, 15th, 16th.
17th, yeah.
I'm personally not available on the 17th, so that one's out. I think I need to be here. I don't have to be here, I guess, if Chris wants to cover it. I'd like to be here. And then I could do the 24th, the 25th. Trying to stay away from Fridays.
Well, for me, I prefer keeping it closer to the 11th, maybe that 16th date or something, at least for me. I don't know if I gotta do any traveling at the end of the month.
Chris, how's the 16th look for you?
It looks good.
Okay, so that's two.
It does not work for me.
Okay. How'd that work for you, Jonathan?
We talking about the 16th,
Yeah,
January?
Yep.
I think I can do that.
okay, so there's three right there. And Bob, I know it's hard for you to commit in advance, but looks like the 16th can work. If you're available, obviously you'll be there. If you're on an airplane, you won't, but.
Yeah, I don't have my schedule. I don't have my schedule yet, but if I can do it remote if need be, if that's an option.
Right, Mayor Carol said the 16th was no good. Can we ask her what dates do work for Carol?
Sure. How about the 17th, Carol? I can't do the 17th, so there's no.
Can we do the 15th, Carol? 15th is the holiday.
It's Martin Luther King Day.
But I could do the 15th.
I can do the 15th.
Yeah, me too.
15th, Chris, does that work?
Yes, that works for me.
Jonathan?
I can do the 15th.
I'm sorry, Alicia. We're gonna cut your holiday short.
That's okay. What about Polly and Thomas?
Polly and Thomas, can you guys be there on the 15th?
I can.
That day is a holiday, just so you know. It's Martin
I
Luther
know,
King. Okay,
yeah, we just did that, but
okay.
we'll give you holiday pay, Polly. Thomas, are you on still?
He might have stepped away, I'm texting him too.
All right,
He might have stepped away, he's got family.
I am still on.
Oh, you're there.
could you do Monday the 15th at, 6 p.m.?
I can do that.
So it sounds like we can try and make that work. So let's pencil that in. And we can do that. And
Still at 6?
6, if that works for everybody, yeah, 6 is fine.
That works.
Okay. Okay. So, Alicia will send an invite, but in the meantime, put it on in your calendars. Thank you all for that. So that's part one of that discussion. Jan, do you want to give an update on the retreat for everyone?
Sure. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to the retreat this year. Last year when we finished, we felt like, hey, next year let's invite the planning commission to the discussions. And so we've done that, and we have also invited the Economic Development Committee, the entire staff. The focus of this year's retreat is to work towards a strategic plan that includes public input. So the retreat will be a facilitated discussion. It will be in workshop fashion. So while the public is invited to this initial meeting, it's more for the planning commission, the town council, the staff, contractors, economic development committee to have discussions. And then we will be taking the ideas, or our facilitator will take the ideas back, and we will begin a process of creating a strategic plan to address some of the most difficult issues, the pressing issues in town. And that may take a period of 6 months to arrive at a strategic plan. But that's where we're headed with this council meeting. Again, I'm really looking forward to this new approach of inviting in the public input to create solutions in town.
Questions for Jan?
Hey,
I
Jan.
think we'll be,
Oh, sorry. I thought you opened
Go
it
ahead.
to questions.
I didn't hear. anything,
Jan,
so.
about how many people are in total are invited to the retreat?
About 40.
That's a big crowd.
It is. And, we have a very highly recommended facilitator, and she will be doing the heavy lifting. We don't need people to prepare presentations, other than I'll be talking to Katie, who's on our budget committee. We'll be kicking off the retreat as typically we do in private enterprise, with a discussion on the budget. And again, we're finalizing the details on the agenda, and we should have that by next week.
Hey, great. Looking forward to it.
Me too. So it's just discussion item. If there's no more questions, I'll keep moving forward.
Just one other question. the technology you need to do a public retreat, right? This is a public meeting. Is that right, Jan?
It is.
We have all that set up.
We will. If you remember last year, we hosted a public meeting. Yes, we're working with the people at the Homestead Resort. The format will be similar to last year's although we're starting at noon to add more time for discussion and then it will end about 5 and we'll have a nice dinner like we did last year, which is a great way to mingle and sense of community, and looking forward to that.
So Chris, one of the things we're planning on doing is taking what is that called?
Owl.
The owl in the conference room that we're using right now, and moving it to the location and Alicia's been working on that with the Homestead people, so we got a plan for that.
Is that a whiteboard or what are you talking about?
That
The owl.
Oh,
You're looking at it, Ralph.
It's a combination 360 camera and microphone.
Is it in the same room that we had last year?
It can't be, we can't fit 40 people.
Yeah, that would be tough.
There's no way,
Yeah.
so can't be there, have to be a bigger conference room for sure. I'm assuming that Jan figured all that out for us, I hadn't thought the question, so.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know Jan and I, we were talking about it last night or night before or something like that. So, sounds terrific. And bring your whiteboards, I guess, right?
Okay, thanks for the update, Jan. We'll look forward to seeing that in the agenda shortly. I know I have something to do on that, but Polly's given me the go ahead, so I'll take care of that, tomorrow or tonight and get you what you need. So it is time to look ahead to 2024, for better or for worse, and identify dates that we want to have our council meetings. We do that annually at this time through an ordinance. And so the ordinance is suggesting that we do this on the second Thursday of each month.
The December 19th one, is that the second or third Thursday of December?
Can't be the second, you run out of days, don't you? No, we could do that.
Yeah, I saw that.
If the first was, if the first was on a Friday, you could get there.
I'm so sorry, it's the 12th.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so any more that we have to go look at?
So obviously we've changed the January 11th to the 15th.
Yeah.
Did you notice any others?
No, it's just that one. I think I'm gonna do the list. I got a plan ahead, you know.
February 8th. And because there's 29 days, I was wondering why March was so different from February next year, but next year is a leap year. So there's 29 days in February next year. So that pushes the March meeting to the 14th.
What was the decision about the conversation about December 19th? That's the third Thursday.
That's the wrong date. So we're
Oh,
gonna
okay.
rechange that to
The 12th?
the 12th. I think I'm getting there, but yeah.
And then we just discussed January 11th becoming January 15th.
And we'll change that. And yes, December 12th. Yep. So. But if you're okay with the intent of most of them in the second Thursday, except for the January meeting because of the complications from the workshop, I would need a motion to approve an ordinance establishing the 2024 meeting schedule for the meetings of the Town Council of Hideout, Utah, with the adjustments discussed, which is January 15th, 2024, and December 12th, 2024, in addition to what's shown on the screen. Or in exchange of the dates that are shown on the screen for January and December.
So moved. Oh,
I'll second.
All right, I'll thank Chris for the motion and Carol for the second. Okay, Ralph,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Chris,
yes.
and Carol.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all for that.
Mayor, can I ask a question? So the swearing in of our newly elected council members, is that going to happen at the retreat or are we waiting till the 15th?
We're gonna do it at the retreat.
Okay, thank you.
There's only one, three people have to be, two reinstated and one new one. But we'll do that right at the very beginning. We'll have a brief public meeting for that, to get the swearing in done. Once we open the public meeting, we'll get that done, and then we can move right into the agenda. That's our plan, is to do it on the 11th. So Jonathan can participate, and also in the follow-up meeting on the 15th. So. But good question, Chris, thanks. Okay, item 12 is this results of a traffic study we did on North Shoreline Drive, where there's been a lot of discussion amongst this council for what to do. Tim is unfortunately under the weather seriously today and not able to be here to present this, so I'm going to do my best. You were sent this with the package last Friday. I'm not going to read the whole package to you, but there are recommendations of things that can be done, including signage, speed bumps, things you can put to, automatically slow the road down, like traffic circles, narrowing mechanisms to make it naturally slow down. Some of you may have noticed when we had the barrels out blocking the street to cause people to slow down. So we are recommending a combination, and I mentioned last time we were supposed to have a speaker tonight, but that speaker had a conflict, and he or she will be here with us I'll have to see if they're now available on the 15th to confirm that they can be there to talk about some more of this with us. But we're looking at three-way stops at the major intersections. So when you come down from Town Hall direction going down Shoreline towards Ross Creek, there would be a three-way stop at the turn to Shoreline 2 on both sides to stop traffic there. And then there would be another one coming in. We have recommending 2 more speed signs that go in, so to do that. And outside of winter, in winter, there is narrowing naturally because of the plowing. So we are trying to avoid putting narrowing features in the road in the winter so the guys can, plow as close to the edge as they can. But outside of winter, we are looking at, if you remember, I talked about the barrels. The problem with the barrels is they get moved by the big trucks when they need to come in, or they get taken by guys who are tired of slowing down. So they're not robust. But we are looking at
Not very aesthetic either.
No, but there are, I call them, I don't know if you all know what T-ball is, but T-ball is a kids game where a way of playing baseball for young people, who, have the option to, have the ball sitting on a rubber hose up the right height so they can just whack away at it and they don't have to pitch, which keeps little kids from throwing baseballs at other little kids. Well, they have similar looking thing as a tee that goes in the middle of the road, and they're rubber, and you can run them over without doing significant damage if it were to happen. But we're looking at putting those in places to cause narrowing as opposed, and have them be removed in the winter. And then there's 2 speed bumps that we're looking at as well. So the combination of the non-physical measures, so the radar speed signs, as shown in here, speed humps, which should be humps, I think, typo in there, or speed lump, and then some narrowing or neck downs in a couple places, as well as stop signs. In addition to the radar signs, stop signs. So that combination of measures is relatively low cost, and we think will help get the message across. One of the drawings in here I thought was very good, and we'll look at doing this as well, if I can find it. It's way down here. I really like that. And that's relatively low cost. As well, and we'll have to, we'll have to paint it at some frequency because of plowing and the traffic, but it's a pretty clear message. It won't say 35 because we're not, but so those are the recommendations from the study and the engineering folks. That's what they'd like to do down there, engineering and public works folks, what they'd like to do down there. Questions or comments?
Yeah, the radar speed sign is the most expensive one, isn't it? But
It is, but we actually,
useful, I'm assuming. Yeah.
we actually have a couple.
We do?
Yeah,
Good.
we bought, and had them put in, because we were waiting for this to figure out where's the best place to try and put them. Been working with Dan, there are enough, but in addition to the portion of shoreline that we've been talking about, we're also gonna get one up on the section of Longview that goes up past the golf course there, where the people from Rustler treat that straightaway as a racetrack from time to time, even on the speed bumps there. So
You're here on that one too.
so we'll get one up there as well. At the moment, we're not thinking about adding a stop sign there, but we try and get the speed sign up, and because there are speed bumps there that you do feel, they're not inconsequential. Other questions from council, ideas, things we'd like to see us consider in there? There's a ton of data in here. I'm fine, Alicia, I mean, it's in the document here, but we can put a pointer on the website for the residents who want to read the study in detail and may not be at the meeting tonight or have the package, so that they can see the recommendations that are from the third party reviews. And additionally, we continue to work with the police on making sure that we get some people down there when they are in town.
Well, a really needed study, so if anything, this was really important to get out.
So, yeah, nice piece of work
Yeah.
from the guys.
Yeah.
Very happy with them.
A lot of options in
Yeah, a
there.
lot of thinking in there, and this is not new science for a lot of places, but it is for us. So it was great to see the kind of thinking that goes on for it.
So we're not gonna do anything until next month, right? Right.
Well, we're gonna, if the weather holds, we'll get stop signs in, stuff like that. before it gets too frozen. Right now, it's still above freezing, we can make dents in the ground and stuff like that, so there's some things we can get going. You know, based on the winter forecast as it stands, you know, if it gets some freezing, we may have to wait a bit for some of the other things. But yeah, we're gonna get moving as quickly as we can if you guys are comfortable with us moving ahead, so.
Mayor, this is Chris. We got a bunch of hands that have come up, including Bob Nadelberg's, but I wanted you to recognize that. But also, I didn't hear any conclusions, recommendations. I mean, I saw that four-way stops or three-way stops, whatever, not to be used for speed control, but rather for volume control, which we don't have enough of. But were there any conclusions or recommendations that came out of this study? Or or is this simply data that we now need to use to, figure out if we're going to implement any of these types of controls?
Well, we met with the study folks, and our recommendation is, as I said, we're gonna add 2 3-way stops. Those intersections are corners where they get cut. Frequently, people are just cruising through there, and not taking the time to be careful. So we are, even though they say they're for volume control, we believe that after discussion that they're gonna be useful for slowing it down, because it's gonna cause people to have to stop and think. The signage, as I said, beyond the stop signs, the speed signs, will go in. The speed humps, we have 2 locations recommended to put them in. They'll go in the spring. I don't think we should do them now since we're into plowing season. Let's get through the plowing season. And then the narrowing or the dividing of the road in some way to make it cause you to slow down like the barrels did, that'll go up back in the spring. So those are the recommendations that came from after reviewing this with engineering and Dan and so forth. That's what we're bringing forward.
Okay, so even though the traffic study that we paid for tells us we shouldn't be putting these multi-way stops, we're going to do it anyway, is really what you're saying?
I'm saying in 2 locations, we think they're warranted. It'll force, because the way the road is today, there are sections of the road and where there is no construction, buildings or anything along the way. And so it's natural to pick up speed in those locations because you don't see any interference. And so our belief is, after discussion with these guys, is that stop signs will, by definition, remind people that they're now moving into an area where there are more hazards, more people, more structures. So yeah, Chris,
And we wouldn't do anything like a choker or something, choker chicane, the photos that are later in here. Instead, is it?
It could be, Chris, but that requires, concrete pavement, road adjustments to the right of way. There's more to it than, and I don't want to neck down in the wintertime because we're already pretty narrow on our snow removal. So we're thinking that while those ideas work for places that have appropriate road widths, we're short on that. So no, we're not recommending doing permanent movements there.
I mean, did you ask Epic Engineering to take into account that we have snow removal and other things when they did this study that we paid for?
Is that what?
Did you ask them to take into account, these challenges you just mentioned? We don't want to, put a choker in, for example, because we're worried about snow plowing, because we know we live in an area that has snow. Did Epic Engineering consider those when they did this report for us.
Yes, they did, but they also shared with us all the things that are done in various places, give us the full option of things to think about, right? Not all of them apply here in our opinion from the engineering folks. So if these, these are the ones that I just took you through are the ones that the team thinks are the most likely to be successful without hindering both the snow removal efforts and access to, again, because of the street width, some of those chicanes mean that we're gonna end up putting pavement or borders, if we were to do those, over right of ways in which utilities run, which means that if there's an issue, we end up disrupting the road. So.
No, so Mayor, my issue is not with what you guys, it's with the actual traffic study from Epic Engineering that we were paid for. I don't know how much we paid for this, but we got a traffic study. It seems like it could be boilerplate stuff that they just sent us that we paid for, that is not fully applicable to the specific North Shoreline Drive, where they, and this is where I would have liked to have seen this traffic study represent actual options to calm the traffic that we can implement, given all, what they know, because they're one of our regular engineering partners, right? So they're supposed to understand what our town looks like and what the roads are currently and what we can and cannot do. So what recommendation did they actually make for us to calm the traffic besides anything boilerplate?
Chris, they down with us with the review of this material, and we talked about all the things I mentioned. And, I shared with you the conclusions. I'm sorry Tim's not here to take you through the detail. But I can certainly bring that forward. It's just, it's a sharing item. I'm not asking for any action from you, simply sharing what we've found to date and what the thought process is. So I will go back to them and have them come forward next meeting to talk about actions.
Yeah, that would be great. It would be awesome if we could actually, and I'm sorry, Tim's out sick and can't answer the questions, and you're doing it, you're doing your best to cover for this. So I appreciate that. It would just be nice for us to be able to ask the engineers, for actual recommendations that are potentially actionable. I'm a little bothered by the stop sign thing. I mean, I would like to get into that a little bit. So, that's my feedback since you're in the sharing mode with us. So that is my feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know where that echo is coming from. I'm sorry.
Well, to Chris's point, I'd say, setting some priorities. How do we come up with so having Tim explain for yourself, what are the priorities and why? Because there were a lot of options there. Many have all sounded good, but I think that's where you're going, Chris, is like, what do we prioritize first in terms of the benefit to that area?
Yeah, right. We didn't get into the metrics either because I took a look at the charts and about average speeds and such. And I just, did we get a good enough sample to get data through which to make decisions? And then, what are the viable options to do something? Because I think the community really does want the town to take action on this portion of Shoreline Drive because, we've just gotten so many complaints about it. And, fortunately, I don't think we've had any accidents, unless you can tell me we've had accidents. Maybe we have had 2 accidents. I think that's what the report said, but
There've been accidents, single, not from joint traffic. There've been, single driver accidents where they've, distracted driving and driven off the road.
oh, okay, well, that's bad. Yeah, so, it's perceived as a dangerous stretch of road, even though we may not have any statistics to, that anybody's gotten hurt or anything on it, thankfully, but I feel like we need to take some kind of action and do something that means that would be good economically as well as, for public safety, but I don't feel like we've gotten anything concrete. At least from what I've read and, your ability to represent this report. So do you think we could come back to it another time when we have the right engineering folks available?
We'll do that. We'll have it for January 15th.
And Mayor, there's a bunch of hands up. I don't know if you're taking any input, but I just wanted you to know that there are a bunch of hands.
All right, sorry, I'm gonna scroll up on this, so I'll take, and this is not normally a public item, this is just information for council, but I can take hands. So, I've got, Lorinda Lattimore.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for letting us, hearing us out. I'm not really sure where to begin, but hopefully we don't have to wait until there's an accident or a fatality to get attention on this. I'm not understanding, just to address that comment that this study made, says there weren't any accidents, so there has to be accidents in order to do something. That doesn't seem right.
It's just a metric, one of the metrics that they look at, okay?
Sure.
It's not saying you have to have one to do anything. We're trying to do things. It's just that they measure everything, including the fact that during the time of the studies that they were there weren't any accidents.
Okay. And then I wasn't clear on, you said there is going to be stop signs put in at Shoreline by Ross Creek.
That's our recommendation is freeway stops in a couple of locations.
Okay.
One at Recreation Drive and one on the way into the neighborhood.
Okay. Got it.
So.
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
But, council has not, has requested more information, so that won't happen until we get some more information in next month.
So the recommendation, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but.
Recommendation that we had brought forward, the council has asked for additional information and more detail on the other options. So we'll bring that forward next month.
So nothing gets done until the recommendation gets made and
That's my understanding of the suggestions from council. I don't know where she went. She might fell off there.
Phil, it looks like she may have dropped off. Hey, it's Bob. Refresh my memory. I thought putting in speed bumps, asphalt speed bumps, wasn't that a done deal?
That was, we were waiting for us to study to help us figure out where the best place was, Bob.
All right. I mean, this is going to sound naive. Do we have to? I mean, we sit there and talk about this the whole time. Why don't we just put the speed bumps in where we had the flat top table, maybe another one further down the hill. It's not rocket science. We just need to slow down the traffic, because Lorinda is correct. There is going to be a major accident. Somebody is going to get seriously injured. Someone or something is going to get killed. So this is something that I think deserves prompt attention. That's my 2 cents. I would rather do something than belabor this for another couple of meetings over the next few months, if it was up to me.
Appreciate that, Bob. I too want to move ahead with some of this, but I don't know. I can I'll get the rest of the input from people and then we'll test the council again at the end.
I got cut off somehow. This is Lorinda. I was just asking about the timing. So nothing gets done until the next meeting because there's more information needed. I mean, to Bob's point about speed bumps, aren't stop signs the same concept of just slow down? I mean, it doesn't seem like an expensive, what more information do you need? I mean, I mean, maybe I'm overstepping, but, and I don't fully understand the process, but it seems pretty simple to just put stop signs in where you are recommending to put stop signs and see how, and go from there, and speed bumps where you said where everybody agreed to put speed bumps. So I'm just confused as to why this is continuing to go on, because I've only been part of this for a year. I know other residences, especially in Deer Waters, have been asking about this for 2 years or maybe longer. So it just seems like it's just getting drawn out, and it's kind of frustrating to hear other things get pushed to the top and this continue to just get pushed to the bottom and just kicked down the road and nothing is done.
Mayor, can I respond to that just very briefly?
sure.
And then I don't think we should take a lot of public input on this. We were just going to go down a rabbit hole. That's my opinion. But so this study, from what I've seen, the study we received from the engineering company that we commissioned or we paid for has information here that does not show a lot of excessive speed. And I don't understand. This is why I'd like to speak to the engineers who have done the study and interpreted the study to make sure that this is indeed valid data for us. Mm-hmm. So how can we take action? We just need a better understanding of what we're receiving here through this traffic study. Now, I know that people's perception is, and they've witnessed, and I've been on this road myself. I ride my bike on this road. I'm afraid of distracted drivers and people who are speeding. They could kill me, and they could kill any resident who's out there, not in another vehicle. But anyway, the point is, I just think we need more information. It would be very confusing to the public to put some stop signs up and then take them down. It would be we're at a time of the year where putting speed bumps in is not an easy thing. First of all, we have to plow. I mean, we haven't had much snow yet. Hopefully that's going to change, and we're going to, have a lot of plowing that has to happen. So these are all considerations, because of the nature of the climate that we live in, that we should do this as quickly as we can, but do it deliberately and thoughtfully at the same time, which they are not necessarily mutually exclusive. So I just think we need the engineers here to come and explain to us this traffic study.
So is there a possibility of getting engineers to comment on this before?
This isn't a dialogue, Lauren. I mean, this.
All right.
We can't go down the rabbit hole. If I'm happy to talk to you if you want to give me a call outside this meeting and bring forward your concerns. So please feel free to call me. My phone number's on the website. My email's there as well. So that's my opinion. We just need an engineer to talk to us about this traffic study.
Guys, this isn't rocket science. I can't believe we're getting wrapped around the axle. One other thing, how much are we paying for the Wasatch County Sheriff? Isn't that like something like $85,000 a year? I never see that guy ever. I never see him patrolling Shoreline Drive. When I do see him, I see him writing traffic tickets on 248. You know what? If people want to go 90 miles an hour on 248, hit a deer and kill themselves, that's fine. That's their problem. But we need to have the cop that we're paying for. We need to have that guy. He needs to be on Shoreline Drive like 75% of the time. Can we have somebody call the sheriff to make sure that happens? Otherwise,
I can take care of that. I can take care of that, Bob. We'll make sure that they're 60-40 or 70-30 on Shoreline.
It said here somewhere that was it 100 days?
Yeah, there's a lot of data in there, the days that they're here.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're only here 4 hours a week, 5 hours a week, something like that. So, I mean, it just leaves a lot of hours that they're not there, so.
I'll weigh in here on a couple of things. One is, yeah, I think we need to have a deeper discussion with the engineers so we can prioritize some things, but, you know, I'm also on the side of, I think, Bob, and, you know, get something done. What can we do economically that makes the most sense? Rely on the judgment of our town engineers that have done the follow-up from the study. And then, you know, don't put in a $10,000 sign that we can't get out. But, you know, if there are some things that we can do now that are economical and make some sense, I'd say, you know, we have a term in our company called bias for action. And, you know, I think this is one of those places where it's a bias for action a bit. So, and you know me, I'm a data person. I always want to look at it, but I do think this is a bit of a bias for action kind of approach.
I agree as well, Ralph, and I can look at what measures we can do that are temporary, removable, whatever, not in, you know, but get us back to, but not interfere with the plowing. And I'll work with Dan on some ideas on that.
Yes, we rely on our experts
Yeah.
who've interpreted this information, and then come back and have the folks, as Chris was saying, you know, to give us a deeper analysis. But, you know, I'm sure there's some things we can do that's not gonna break the bank and make some, you know, have some impact for the folks who live over there.
For all of us.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I think because of the length of the agenda and the fact that if all the hands that are up are, in the same mindset, which is hurry up and get something done, we got the message. I will work to get things done that can be done without, spending a ton of public money, but have some impact. And then, at the same time, we'll have further study, and input from the engineers that do the study for next month.
Just a suggestion.
Mhm.
Do you want to maybe remind people of the email address and maybe?
Yeah, so, yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Alicia. So again, by all means, please write to hideoututah@hideoututah.gov. An email with your additional thoughts, that we may not gotten to tonight. So that we can, hear other ideas that you guys may have. And I can bring those to the engineers for consideration as well. Okay. So, anything else on the traffic study? Carol, you didn't weigh in. I know you have thoughts.
I will weigh in. I don't have really anything to say other than I agree with everybody. We need to do something now. For all those people that are along Shoreline Drive, close to the entrance to Jordanelle State Park. They've been asking for it for months and months. So I just agree with everybody else. We need to get some kind of stop sign or something there.
Thank you, Carol.
Uh-huh.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 13. And again, this was supposed to be presented by Tim, so I'll just give you a high level on this at the moment. We've been with Adora Group, formerly TO, for 4 or 5 years. And so I authorized Tim to do a request for proposal from engineering companies because it's always good to benchmark. So, we don't get, the companies that serve us don't get too comfortable and assume they're gonna get every piece of work no matter what the bill is and that kind of thing. It's just good purchasing practice. And so we did an RFP with a number of groups. And I think there's an error in the note here, but we got feedback from Sunrise Engineering, Horrocks Engineering, Aqua Engineering, Epic Engineering, and Adora. And I'm not just, Adora's done a fantastic job for us. We're really happy with them. But we felt like it's good to have some additional partners for a number of reasons. One is some have some specialties more than others. Another is sometimes we have enough work that we can't do everything with just Adora. And so we wanted to identify ideally 3 partners that we could put into the pool and select and rotate opportunities with them for projects that needed to be bidded. They would all have the opportunity to bid, and smaller projects that don't require, meet the threshold for multi-unit bidding. We would just rotate amongst the selected candidates to ensure that we have breadth. So sometimes, we get behind on building inspections and stuff because the building, if you look at Soaring Hawk, I mean, everybody decided to build their house this year in Soaring Hawk. There's got to be 15 homes going. So sometimes we need, folks from more than just what Adora can get us to keep us on schedule. So that was the intent of this, to see that our fees from these guys were, in the, plus or minus a few percent of what the market is charging, right? And we did do that, and also to see if there are other partners out there who wanted to work with us. So we have identified, as I said, Tim has 4 here and he didn't put Epic in, so I think there's something off here a little bit. So, but the intent is to wean it down to 3 or so, maybe 4 at the most, but typically 3 partners that we can work with across the engineering perspective to have balanced resource availability and deal with the fact that, for example, Aqua is very, very good in the water and sewer space. That's their primary thing. So they could be really helpful for us, given the fact that JSSD is only able to help us on an emergency basis. So, but this is their core business for Aqua. So they might be a great partner for us in helping us maintain the water and sewer system. So that's really what we wanted to share with you tonight. The intent would be to execute agreements with these guys, not as a commitment to funding, but as a agreement. We get the legal stuff sorted out on the agreements so that we go to them. All that stuff is behind us, that they're a selected partner. They meet, they've met the legal requirements for do business with us. That they understand our code and that kind of stuff. And that way, when we need to use them, we don't have to go through the whole contract thing. A lot of that is done in advance. So we're not quite there yet, but we'll come back to you with the final on this, but that's just background information for everybody. And I'll take questions.
Do any of them require retainers, or is it a straight
No, it's
time and material contract?
it's, we have a rate schedule for the type of person involved. For, engineering services, that kind of stuff. So it's based on that, and they give a rate, the rate schedule is a municipal rate schedule. It's discount from commercial folks. We check it against our other schedules and what some other towns have been doing. So we know the costs are in the middle of the pack of what folks are charging municipalities. So no, it's not. Now, again, when we get to the bigger projects that require an RFP, those will be bid and we'll be bid on a bid cost basis, so. But we're talking about more general stuff on the smaller stuff, so. But yeah, so we'll get that behind us.
And Ardura would still be our lead. And have we gotten any input from them on working with these other engineers?
Yeah, I've talked with Ryan and Dylan, they're very comfortable, they do it all the time. It's not, you know, they can't do it all anyway, they're already subbing work that they do for us as is, so. Having these guys set up with us just means that it's easier when they need to pass work off, for example, so. I think it'll be fine. And again, we've been talking about bidding the water and sewer maintenance for a couple of years with the SSD, and they've finally come forward and said that they can't take it on, so we're gonna be bidding that out for next year. See what comes back with that. Okay. Yeah, I think it's good. Because, all these guys have different experiences and, you've been around long enough to know we worked with Clorox in the past. They're a great firm. Sunrise does a lot of work for us now, through Adora. So, that they sub a lot of the inspection stuff through Sunrise, so going to them directly will probably take some cost out as well. So again, nothing needed from you guys at the moment, just keeping you in the loop. Again, no commitment of spend with anybody, until, let's say if there's stuff that requires an RFP basis, then then we would commit to, for example, a building inspection person or something from some company as needed, so. At this point, it's just information. So, well, what I really want to do is get feedback from you guys, if you're comfortable with the idea that we're gonna share it around, you see any issues with that you want us to think about, I'm happy to entertain your thoughts. And by the way, this is done fairly commonly with most municipalities. Nobody likes to have all their eggs in one basket. Purchasing practice for most companies suggests that you have to have a minimum to set. Business is the same way. Yeah.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question. How are we gonna coordinate work? And I mean, Aqua, it sounds like they have a specialty that the others don't have. So that seems obvious, but how are you, or how is you or Tim or whomever is going to be coordinating? How are we making sure that if we're giving bits and pieces to different engineering groups, that that it all makes sense, and that if there's any knowledge sharing that has to happen, or how are we keeping everything straight and coordinated?
So Chris, there are elements that, for example, Ardora does our GIS work. They're heavily invested in it. They've done a lot of work for us in it. Although we run on an ArcGIS server, they're maintaining it for us. They have the know-how. At the moment, for example, that one we think we would leave there. We're really talking about more of the project oriented. So two things. One is some of the ongoing, what's the best way we can get the building inspection services we need. We've had some speed issues with the current arrangement. We need to beef that up. And so we'll be talking to the selected partners around how they can help us do a better job with the inspections. There are other places that, let's say, like you talked about, Aqua may be the best fit for help us with the water and sewer system. So we're, we've been very open with Adura. They've been very, open with us. We'll sit down with them. And, I'm expecting to sit down with Ryan the week after next and talk through this. And think about what things go in what buckets. So I don't have that final detail yet, Chris, but we will have that sorted out with a plan, around who's gonna do what and which projects. And then again, as I said, we will rotate opportunities amongst the group. So if we've got another, project to look at, like the fire station or something, we would move it to whoever's next on the list. And just rotate through them, so those that have, and they all have basically a lot of the same capabilities and overlap, so we'll just share them just so we can keep some business going each of their way and keep us, having a secondary resource available. Well, that's the thinking process. We're gonna pick some specific tasks, like I said, GIS, and we're not gonna share that around because it just gets messed up if you do that. But the things that can be, put in a project bucket and say, we need to, for example, the annual road work, we can share that around. Have somebody put together the proposals and all that for the road work. So that we get our bids in and figure out who we're gonna use to do the crack seal and stuff like that we do annually with the roads. So we're gonna break it all down into which ones are shared and which ones are assigned.
As we go into this meeting in January, should we have kind of a summary engineering report for the town by, Ryan and, kind of what, if we're gonna have a strategy for next year, that at least should be listened to going into this meeting.
That's a good thought, Ralph. I think we can do that. I don't know if Jane can fit it in the agenda, but I think it's a good thought.
Actually, we were talking about this the other day as well, so I don't know if Ryan could attend, but, we certainly, that should be a piece of our, what is our engineering strategy for 24? What does he see as the big issues? Besides how different engineering firms would take different pieces of the puzzle, but, to Chris's point, coordination, but probably a bigger picture. What are our critical issues?
Okay, we can do that. That's a good idea. Okay. We can do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that's more than reasonable. I think we're gonna have to keep dialogue around it relatively short. We can't disrupt the entire meeting, but we at least hear the comments and the thought
Even
process.
20 minutes
Yeah.
with an executive summary
Right, exactly.
from
Yeah.
Ryan would be
Yeah.
really useful.
So
Give us the big hitters,
Yeah.
going into 24.
We just need to keep our discipline about, because sometimes we like to dive down, and we'll have to save that for another, we can set up another session to do that, but I'm not saying can't do that, but I just I don't wanna eat up the whole workshop on that, so we'll be conscious about that, but I like it. I'll talk with our Dura, about that. Okay, next item is public input, open for any attendee to speak on items not listed on the agenda. And that would include, the fact that we've already talked about the road conditions, so we'll not be taking questions on the road conditions. Rachel, your hand is up. You should be able to unmute Rachel.
Well, I'm actually kind of upset that I wasn't called on before, and I mean, Jan said that she wants the community to be involved in decisions, and Shoreline One submitted a petition that we do not want speed bumps. And I know you just said that you didn't want to be talking about this, but I was not given the opportunity to say that I was against it as opposed to agreeing with everything. Our whole community submitted a petition with, I think, like 30 some signatures saying that we don't want them. And I don't feel like we're being heard at all.
I'm sorry, I'll disagree with you, Rachel. That speed bump is out.
Well, okay, so where's the speed bumps gonna go? That's what you did not say where the speed bumps are gonna be put.
That's correct. I haven't said where they're gonna be put.
So do you have a specified spot for them?
I'm not gonna address that here. I'll share it when the recommendation comes forward.
Okay, so
Just so you know,
can I
Rachel,
assume it's not, can I assume it's not gonna be in the same spot?
no, it's not gonna be the same spot.
Okay. Just to
I'll
let,
also tell you, at the same time that your petition came in for taking it out, I got petitions to put them in. So, you know, the community is divided on speed bumps. What I would love is that the community behaves and drives appropriately, and therefore we don't need them. Unfortunately, it seems as if it doesn't work, so we're keeping that in mind. It's not the first line of defense, hence the stop signs, hence the speed signs that will go in, but we'll see. If people keep abusing the speed limit, then we're gonna have to do other measures to try and slow them down.
okay, well, one suggestion though is that speed bumps, if they're put in a place where they're not directly in front of homes, that you hear the noise from them, then that would be more,
That was heard, and I
That
agree
would-
with you
you
that
know, that would be better.
we have to look at how to do that in a way that isn't incredibly disruptive from a noise perspective. I agree with you there.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mayor, this is Brian Cooper too. I just wanted to add my personal experience with stop signs. I think they're a good idea, especially at Recreation Drive, because last winter, towards the end of the season, when I was plowing snow at like 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and the snowbanks were 6 feet high, I would just come up from Shoreline 2 and was stopped at the stop sign from Recreation Drive onto Shoreline Drive. And a contract plower came by at least 45 miles an hour down Shoreline Drive. And I could barely see, basically my plow was kind of sticking out. So I could see in that road. If a stop sign there would be a tremendous help in the winter. That's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Brian. Any other public input?
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten some input about our lighting ordinances. And, you know, at least a couple of people came to me and said, you know, are we making this so hard for certain folks in town that can't see, you know, from a safety reason? And so I'm just sharing this input. I don't know, I don't have any answers. We made a decision on the dark skies, but that was some input, you know, that there's safety considerations for certain folks. Heard that a couple of times. I also heard, you know, because we're coming into the holiday season, on our lighting for when we start our holiday lighting. And I think it was when we passed that ordinance, it was December 1. And I've heard a couple of people at least ask, you know, can we move this back to Thanksgiving, which would be a few, you know, kind of like the beginning of the holiday season. So that's the comments that I've heard. I'm not saying we need to talk any more further on that, but that's a piece that I think we might want to revisit.
Okay, we can certainly think about doing that, Ralph. I mean, part of the timing was set because the HOA also has timing. And
Yeah,
then kind
I know.
of, we tried to overlap, so that we don't.
And I think I was the one who suggested
What people don't get a mixed message. You know, HOA says, don't put them up till here, and we say, put them up whenever, you know, so.
That's a minor issue. I think the safety issue is probably more important. And I'd love to hear what we, you know, what the results so far of what we've done, you know, enforcing the lighting. And has it affected anyone's safety, you know, so the fact that this safety's gotta be number one concern, so.
Yeah, I mean, the dark sky has got a grandfather period, right? We allow several years
Several years,
before
yeah.
everybody has to get the outside lights set. A dark sky does not mean you can't have lighting, it means you have to have lighting that's compliant. So, I mean, you know, all of the soffit lights in Shoreline, for example, all meet the dark sky requirements. So it's not that you can't have lighting around your home. It means that you just can't have exposed light bulbs.
Maybe you have to have more lighting in those.
So we may have
More
to-
lights that are
we may have
all
to-
in
And the
compliance.
same thing with the streetlights, they have to be, you know, downlit and certain amount of coverage on the ground, but not shooting up. As you know, you worked on that one, so, yeah, I'm happy to.
I think we're getting some initial input as to, you know, what this.
Yeah, the problem, you know, we're adding streetlights in some of the newer developments, but the town was built mostly without them. And so, you know, it would be a significant project to try and add street lighting around the town. I think they could look at certain intersections and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that was the gist of the comments that I got. It was more like, are we doing the right thing here, you know? And, I'd say, you know, so to comment, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but, maybe we can come back to it as to what we've done so far and what we're seeing from adequate lighting, and maybe offer, different homeowners some suggestions in the HOAs as well. You know?
Yep. No, it's fair. I mean, there's a balance somewhere. It's dark out there when you're out there at night.
Yeah, people like me, you know, wear glasses, you know, so.
People like me should wear glasses, and I'm not, but,
But anyway, I think that was just the thing.
okay, thank you, Ralph. That's a good one.
Mayor, I'm sorry to jump in. And when you finish the public input, I would just ask that you go back to 13 and ask for a motion and a vote from the council to authorize you to exercise agreements with the following firms, and then also add in Epic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. The Ropers, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, this is Derek. You were talking about the lights, so I'll just tie right into that. You're talking about having extra lights. You're talking about replacing lights at the second entrance into Hideout there on 248. In addition to lights at the stop signs, which you've talked about those being placed, I think, at Shoreline and Overlook and Shoreline and Recreation Drive. Lights at the stop signs would absolutely be great, but I think also at the north entrance of Hideout on 248 onto Shoreline would also be a great place to put a stop light or a stop. I'm sorry, not stop. I'm on stop signs, but a street light. I would even say you've really emphasized safety in the secondary interest that already has lights. I would try to prioritize putting a light there for turning off, probably even before replacing lights, because at least there is light there versus absolutely nothing down on the north entrance to Hideout.
Valid point, thank you.
Thank you.
Work on that one. All right, anything else in public input? Then I'm gonna close public input and pop back to 13. So although we haven't finished the engineering sort yet, probably brings up a good point. It would be nice to be able to work on these agreements with these various companies, recognizing that that we would do it in a way that does not exceed the approved engineering budget across the full gamut of the selected companies. I'd like to know if the council is willing to support a motion to authorize me to move this thing forward.
I do.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay. Carol? You support me to move
Yes.
forward in engaging with these guys? Thank you.
And
Chris?
also adding in Epic with that group,
Oh,
right?
sorry, Natalie. Yes, Natalie, you have it.
Thank you.
Chris?
I never really got my question answered, so I'm going to say no.
Okay. Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Bob?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-1. Okay. Thank you all. Now we're going to move to continued public hearing items. So we're going to discuss and possibly approve an amendment of the official town zoning map. Or in this case, I think we're not going to do that because I think we're doing it through MDA. So I'm going to let Thomas take us through this and make sure we know what we're talking about. So Thomas, you want to tee it up, and then we've got Ryan and Jenny here as well. So
Sure. So if you remember, this is for the 72 acres, which is the eastern half of the 112 acres that are commonly known as the Salzman property. What we would like to do tonight is to, I think generally the zoning plan has been pretty well vetted and reviewed by the council, but I think what we would like to do tonight is to really walk through some of the issues, kind of policy issues, rather than getting into the details of the MDA, walk through some of the policy issues relative to the commitments to the town, potentially the discussions of a kind of a partnership approach with the town, maybe whether that's in the past we've discussed, maybe that's an overpass, maybe that's parkland, maybe that's land for future development, etc. I thought would be a good discussion tonight. So kind of keep it at a high level rather than getting down into the nitty-gritty of the MDA. So Ryan and Jenny are here tonight, and I thought it would be an opportunity to walk through that. At the last meeting, the council had some concerns with regard to the fact that where initially the idea of the roads would be that they would be under the authority of an HOA, the use of a PID, a public infrastructure district, would require that those roads be dedicated to the town. And so tonight I thought we would start with the issue of maintenance of town roads, etc. I understand that Tim is unfortunately out because he had some information with regard to cost of roads, maintenance, repairs, replacement, etc. But I thought that that might be a good place to start. I know that Ryan and Jenny had provided some information from their designer, noting that they would have about 2+ miles of roads through the development that was proposed. Kind of a rule of thumb from Ardura Engineering and some discussions with Tim and Ryan with Ardura was that it could be as much as $100K a year for maintenance, repair, and replacement. Keep in mind that was per mile, a linear mile, and that was making the assumption that a road would last about 20 years. If that were the case, that could be more expensive than we had anticipated and impact revenues and expenses for the project. So really, that was a discussion a little bit wide open. I don't know if Ryan and Jenny have any additional detail with regard to estimated cost, etc. But probably that's a good starting point.
Great. So just to summarize, where we're at is zoning. We haven't changed anything. Everyone is aware of that. So we're sort of keeping that there. The MDA, like Thomas said, we actually had some really great meetings internally. Chris and Ralph volunteered their time to come and do some meetings with us. And we have basically 2 points that are essences that we haven't we don't have information on or agreements on to give to the lawyers to write up. So those 2 points are what we're talking about tonight, because if we can help with that discussion and then bring that back to Ralph and Chris and get that agreed upon, we can get our lawyers to write that up, and the MDA actually is super close to being complete. So we're really close, but now we have 2 very valid points that need to protect the town and help us to help you guys be a partner with us. So the first point that Thomas is talking about is the public infrastructure deed. We want to do that, which means the roads need to be public to facilitate that happening. And so then it's, what does that cost the town? I do have some visuals I can bring up if that works. Okay, so I'll share the screen.
And just to separate it, that has to do with the PID, not so much the MDA. So
Exactly.
make sure everybody's clear here.
Right, but the town doesn't want to agree to an MDA that has that in it if they're putting themselves in a bad situation. So we want everyone to be educated and know exactly what they're signing and agreeing to with us as the developers. And we're doing that as a team. We're making sure we're all educated on this so we can all go in eyes wide open. So that's what we're talking about right now. So I'm just going to go to sharing my screen.
Feel free to take a stretch while we do this.
Yeah.
Well, you're already up there.
That's my big. I really need a stretch. Help you
Yeah.
reset.
I plan to do a bio break at 9 o'clock anyway.
Oh, you did?
Okay, perfect.
So.
So first I want to just show the current zoning is mountain zoning, and we had our land engineer place, it's 1 acre houses, single family homes. So 53 1 acre single family homes can fit on the current zoning. So as far as the property tax that the town would get once this current zoning is fully built out is around 160K a year. Now those roads would be public and the town would be funding that. So just understanding that there's no sales tax revenue, there's no trails, there's no community hub in the current zoning, and the amount the town would get would be 160K a year for property taxes. The zoning that's proposed would bring in approximately 258K a year in property taxes with the increased density and value of the increased density. Keeping the roads public too, the town spending the pretty much same amount. So it's at 2.1 miles in the proposed zoning. It's around 2 miles of roads in the current zoning. So it's pretty much the same amount of roads, but you increase the property tax by around $90,000. On top of that, you do get trails, community hubs, open spaces, and then an additional around $600,000 a year from sales tax and transient room tax as well. So there is a significant increase with this zoning, but the road increases by 0.1 mile in the zoning.
So Jenny, I
Yeah.
would just point out that the density does increase the traffic light versus 50,000.
True, so it
to
would
be
increase
fair,
the cost of,
So
yeah,
there is
of
more
repairs and
wear
everything, wear and tear.
And
Great point.
so there is some of that.
So the big question is, how much is the cost to the city? So Thomas has done some initial information. Well, he didn't do it, but he's got it back at approximately 100K per mile. So worst case, well, not worst case, with those numbers, it's like 210,000 a year, right? If we're all sort of doing the rough math together. We had DA Davidson do a study for us on because they do the PIDs for all of the other towns. They have a lot more data and everything on how much it would cost. And so they looked back at history on Hideout and all the public information and what you guys have spent to come up with their information. And so Sam is on today and he would love to talk about the study that they've done so we can have the information shared together and understand it. Is that okay if we bring Sam on to talk about the study and data that they found? Okay. So I will stop sharing and I think Sam has the slides up, but if he doesn't, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me on for just a minute here. A little background, I think I introduced myself maybe in the last meeting, but normally we work with jurisdictions and special districts and CRAs and RDAs to help them finance public infrastructure. So a lot of times what we're doing is cost benefit analyses for jurisdictions as they evaluate different projects. So this, when Jenny called us, it was kind of in that vein that we looked at this. And it's interesting because I think in our experience, if we call 10 engineers and ask them what road maintenance costs are, we often get 10 very different answers. And so what we like to do is just go back and look at the historical data as the most accurate, reliable source of information as we evaluate for jurisdictions what they might anticipate the road maintenance costs being for prospective roads in that jurisdiction. Obviously, different geographies have different maintenance needs. And so can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
So what we did is we just went back and looked at Hideout's actual maintenance costs over the last 5 or 10 years that were just coming out of the audited financials. And then we pulled the paved surface miles from the data that UDOT collects and provides a report every year. And using those two data points, coming up with an average cost per paved mile that's based on the historical Hideout operations expense. And so with that, over 5 or 10 years, it was an average about 15 or 16,000 per mile. And then just applying Bloom's prospective roadways, which were cited at a little over 2 miles, gets us to about $30,000 or $34,000 total annual maintenance cost. And then what we did, and I think Jenny might have some of this, and Jenny, you could tell me to stop if you'd like, but then we also looked at based on the land use plan and the different uses and hotel and retail and homes in the project, how much that will generate for Hideout in terms of revenue, property tax revenues collected by Hideout, sales tax collected by Hideout, and so forth, to just see, does the expense exceed the benefit or vice versa? And in this case, I think given the location, given I think the value of the property that will be built and the commercial uses built, we use Jenny's numbers. We found similar numbers on property tax and sales tax and TRT. And we calculated the road funds collected and franchise tax. All of that equals about $850,000 total per year at full build out. And then if you just compare that to the road maintenance expenses, which we trended for cost inflation at full build out, in our analysis, it looks like Bloom will exceed the expense that certainly it puts on the town of Hideout as it relates to roads by a wide margin.
Thanks, Sam.
So
yeah, so if you guys have questions or comments, we're happy to field those.
I'll play boy engineer tonight, but so one is some of the historical stuff for Hideout is the roads were underserved in the past. So, it's not gonna move the number 3 times or anything, but it's saying we didn't do the work we should have been doing historically as a town, but we're finally catching up to that. Secondly, I don't know if those costs include vehicle costs, gas costs, labor for plowing, you know, that kind of stuff. I have to look into that with the finance folks to see where that come from versus just, you know, the money we paid contractors to come and pave and do those kinds of things. So you may be somewhat understated, but again, I understand your point, which is you're gonna generate more revenue than we're gonna spend. I get it.
And we don't want to put the town in a bad situation. So even if we use the 100K per mile, the property tax is still above that a year. So that's where we want all the information and we want you guys to feel really good. But we feel like this development won't put the town in a bad situation. We've also talked about funding the first few years of the road maintenance so that in the initial build out before all the sales tax revenue and everything's in, that the town eases that fear as well. So we can sort of partner up on that. So that's what we've been talking about.
And there's some value to that. And typically we don't maintain subdivisions until they're reasonably occupied.
Great, yeah.
Right? So, you know, typically, we'd expect the builders and the, you know, developers to do the roads that you want to get on in the winter when we don't have anybody living there. So that's, you know, so the costs come up over time.
Yeah, and that essence we are totally in agreement with. So we would love that essence
And
to be
then I
there.
would say that the commercial spaces should be accountable for their own removals, just like we don't do parking lots. And,
Yeah.
you know, or Redstone doesn't have partially plows or other kind of plows plowed in there.
Correct.
I'll just chime in really quickly to one, I think, question that was asked. The numbers that we pulled included personnel, fuel, repair and maintenance, equipment leases, and I think in the broad swath there.
I think what we struggled with is the different estimates that we looked at or got, you know, all of us.
Mhm.
It's like, you've got this extreme, you've got that extreme. What makes sense? So are we doing our analysis correctly? So, you know, agreed, you know, and I think there's historical variations. The town was new at one point. We just want to know that we're in a comfortable range, that we're, you know, we'll both succeed at coming out of this. So
Yeah.
you know, that was clearly the struggle, there was such wide variations in some of these numbers. Now, Rob Zant was supposed to give us some kind of, you know, multi-town numbers. You know, where would these 5 towns look like? What are some of but I don't think he gave us any numbers on that.
Ralph,
You know,
Ralph, I could jump in here a little bit and help you. He did provide some cursory numbers. I think that he's speaking with you tomorrow, but he did provide some cursory numbers at about 20,000 per lane mile. So it's not far off from what
so is that
what Sam's
40,000
number.
Is that 40,000? So that's closer to where we got. And I was guessing that, but you know, but the 100K was a wide variation from 40K, you know, so you know, that's right. And you multiply that by every mile, that's significant. And I think, you know, that's the piece that we all have to consider what's accurate. But yeah, let's revisit that tomorrow and look at the range of numbers that we have again. And I think we've got another set of numbers from Davidson here. Thanks.
And on the deferred maintenance, that was, as we've talked, part of our 5-year plan, understanding that dump trucks, cement trucks, delivery trucks take a much bigger toll than a passenger vehicle. So we understand we're putting more wear and tear on the roads and taking responsibility for that.
Yeah, so that's an area that we're talking about at the engineering level about holding road funds for longer than 12 months before we release bonds because of construction continues. So that's aligned. Okay. All right,
Great. So I feel like the essence is we all want to do the right thing and be aware of what this is going to cost and make sure that it's not going to hurt the city by having a rezoning and a development like this with public roads. And I feel like Ryan and I would love to offer a certain amount of time where the developer pays for the roads. So we've said 5 years, but whatever that time is on the thing. And then the mayor brought up that the commercial would be responsible for their own stuff. So we would love to subcommittee that and talk through it and try and get some language that would be mutual.
Great,
Yeah.
That's fairly straightforward,
You
I
know-
think, as far as the HOA with the parking of commercial spaces, clearing the sidewalks and allowing the parking lots.
I haven't done the math on it, Ralph, but, you know, we have had, other developers bring, help us with infrastructure as to do the maintenance as a result of their builds. So, for example, the, Public Works building was, you know, put into the offer to help us, because we, you know, we knew we weren't gonna be able to manage the extra road miles without covered space and additional equipment and that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, we're talking about that is that, I think you're referring to the piece of the MDA that might include some language around that.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's just something to
The
think
next
about
topic.
is,
Yeah, next topic.
Yeah.
is how to think about it, how we, you know, because it's,
Absolutely.
you know, it's the investment, for, you know,
So like having a maintenance facility
yeah,
on the land side somewhere,
yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have to buy another truck.
Mhm.
You know, I spent a lot of money on snow removal equipment in the last couple of years, thanks to last winter.
Well, you see the price of last winter is double, right? It's 30,000
Yes.
per mile, yeah.
Yeah, it was not an inexpensive winter.
And if you look at it, the 10-year run, you know, the lower numbers are in the beginning and
Right.
then it ramps up. I mean, that's gonna
Yeah.
be typical with most things anyway, but
And
we just want, you know, we need to understand what we're both into this for, so.
so, I mean, as a result, Ralph, I mean, we're just starting to do major, I guess, last year, not this recent one, but the one before, we dug up sections of road and repaved. You know, we didn't repave the whole road, but we're getting portions of the town, like up where you live, that have got enough age on them that we've actually had to tear out pavement and do major, wasn't just a pothole, it was a, you know, 50 feet of road that we had to repave and that kind of stuff. So as we gain age, we gain
Maintenance, yeah.
yeah, so, you know, it'll be great at the beginning, and we probably won't hit your target number, but we wanna make sure the number thinks out enough time that when we have to come back and do a repave, that, you know, we're building the budget to do that.
And don't forget, the other thing is all the other numbers that fit into the sales tax, the TRT, those don't hit until year 9, you know, so that's when you hit steady state, you know, from at least the budget that we run, so, you know, there's this beginning, there's gonna be less traffic on the roads because you haven't built out everything. At the same time, we're not, you know,
We're not generating revenue yet.
we're not generating the 100% revenue that you get in year 9. So, you know, all those things are just factors and we can work through that. I'm sure we can.
Yeah. Next topic?
Yeah, and since apparently I hit it already. So, unknown to me, but yeah, drive on.
Okay. So I don't know if Thomas mentioned next topic already, but the next, Thomas, do you want to mention it or do you want me to just go for it?
No, go ahead, Jenny, you're fine.
Okay.
You wanna, if you're gonna show charts, put them on presentation mode, so, because they're getting pretty small up there.
Okay, perfect. I don't know if I'm gonna show slides on this one yet, but the contribution is the other lingering point on the MDA. Ryan and I offered a contribution of 0.4 acres of land, an amphitheater that we would build out, the developer would fund to build out and then hand over to the city, probably taking about 3 or 4 years to get fully complete. And then the city would be able, we could lease it back for our events. The city could lease it as they wanted or use it as they wanted. So that's what we I don't know if we came with it last meeting, but that's what we came
I
to
remember
the
there was
group.
one in there, yeah.
Okay, so then we had some subcommittee talks. And Ralph and Chris suggested that we come up with a few options for them to take back. And so we went back to the drawing board and we sort of went back to the million valuation and 3 different options of how to use that money and to have that start in the beginning of 2029. So to start when phase 1 was complete or the beginning of 2029, whichever is sooner. And then we have those 3 options, but would love the town to pick those options. To us, it's what is a win-win and what helps the community through this development. And so that's where we were at with the subcommittee. And so what we'd really love to do is empower your subcommittee by hearing if you have any really ideas or dreams for a way to benefit the community and bloom together with a contribution, or tell us your contribution of doing this development is enough and we are really excited for you to do it.
Well, we'd like to
Yeah.
go for 50 acres and $50 million, so we can start from there and go.
And we're not looking for a decision. We just want to open the conversation so we can have a something back at us from the town so we can get the MDA done. Because right now, if we're just giving you guys something, it's hard to get the MDA done.
Yeah, and this is gonna go round and round a bit until we get to, one of those choices. I tell you where we, be totally transparent. I think I shared this with you yesterday or today. I can't really remember. But, the last meeting we had and, Thomas and Chris are online. We thought about a combination of land because that has permanent benefit to the town. And we've done this now with other developers in other developments, and maybe a combination of a lower amount of cash or cash. We'll take as much as you give us, obviously, but that cash, some of that cash could be applied to the improvement of that land that would benefit the town and benefit the homeowners that live in the development. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. So if we could come up with a combination, now that land could be, I think you've got some parcels in there that are kind of not used. So that was where we came out of our last subcommittee meeting with, and I think that's the place that, to me, would benefit the town and benefit you. It's a win-win. So think about that.
Yeah, and Rob, I took that back to our land engineer and he got really excited. He started pulling up different uses for public space around Park City and stuff. And if you look at the middle area here, it says lookout in the top middle, and trails and all that green. There, we do have the amphitheater down, this is down green. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not.
Well, the amphitheater is the square spot, right?
When I put on play, then
Is this the amphitheater,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, that's a good piece of land, but maybe we don't need it,
Right.
You guys could build up on it, and then we
So
could
some-
take a larger section that you're not really using,
yeah.
and then give that to the town with some money, and we can do something with that land.
So some idea. for
Sounds so easy.
I know, doesn't it?
I don't even know why we're here.
You can make more money on that piece of square. so-
I'm gonna,
And I
you can
think
see my mouse.
From our perspective, what we want to know is what is of highest value to the town? Do they need another maintenance shed? Do they need parks and recs? Like, going through what a town needs and what's valuable for the residents. A park and a gathering place, from the research is pretty high on that list. But is that what you guys want? So it's just trying to align what you want and then seeing where we can fit that in.
If you look at just, what towns get the most value out of and developments for those amenities, it starts with parks and playgrounds, open spaces, but restaurants, what you're delivering at the other side of what you're giving us, so to speak, in the development. Those are things that, I think we all want, and we were in this meeting, everybody wants some food, a place to go eat. So you're satisfying that basic need for the town. But, can we use this as another amenity? And land is long-lasting value for the town. So that's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
We can also use that in combination which enhances the value of the development.
Okay, so what the land engineer said, if you look at this lookout, it's high up, it's flat. That could potentially be used for Sunday markets. It could be used for events, weddings. It's a beautiful space, a public park where you can go out and do things.
Is that the relatively flat piece?
Relatively flat piece at the top of the knob, we call it, in the middle of the whole development.
It's basically probably the best view in that section of land. It's a pretty spectacular location.
If you go down, the trails is actually going down to this valley here. The other green place is pretty flat. He talked about having potentially a little bit of parking and a park right there. And then this could be a field, a green grass field that could be used for many things. So it could also be used for Sunday markets. It could be used for kids playing soccer or hosting soccer and things. So there's enough room for a field there, and think a soccer field size there. Over on the left, he was like, what about a dog park? So you can see the cul-de-sac here. This green area here is about the size of the dog park you'd see at Willow Creek. So he had a few ideas of how the community could utilize that space. So that just is giving you some ideas of things that can be done with this property that wouldn't stand up on a tangent.
That was a good spot. We identified that as a possibility. The only other spot we thought was a possibility is, can you go down below kind of, or just shrink that?
Yeah.
Would be in this space here, which, I don't know if that's even useful for the town because of the contours at that, because you're coming into.
You see where that.
Yeah, this area in here. Which is
into a drain into the.
Yeah, that's where we'd have to do some work. The only reason we're thinking the two things, one, you hit it totally on the head, which is the value of, a park, open space in that flat area. The second piece is, could the town use some commercial, could eventually use maybe some commercial space down where the commercial is. Maybe we put, something that matches, what's down there. The problem is, we certainly don't want to ruin anything about the hotel. I mean, obviously everything has to kind of work together and be successful. So those are the two pieces of property, I think, that we saw as value to the town long term. So you hit the top one right there,
So the caveat I want to put on the green pieces that we've talked about is we wouldn't want any structures built on those. For instance, that green that says lookout, one of the reasons we have so much support from Golden Eagle is because we built on the other side and there's no obstruction of the view.
So that idea of putting 5 cell towers up there.
Yeah.
And another 3-story hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen, but if we did that, and I don't know, I'd have to go with the property. I've been through there a couple of times, but not recently. And down by the commercial is, there's just property next to the
So
hotel, that's not doing
the
it.
best property would be the 0.4 acres, the amphitheater, if you were gonna build a town building or something. That would be fine there. It wouldn't be in the view corridor of anyone.
We wouldn't put the town building up there. We, amenities for sure, but I don't think
Got
I see
it,
us
okay.
putting the town hall up there.
No, that's not where we're going at
Right,
all.
but if you were building a structure, that's sort of the amphitheater land is the place. As you go deeper, like Ryan said, it's a beautiful valley. It's like a wildlife run through, so I didn't
I
even.
think it's better keeping it open.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And it
think
may
also
not be
you'd be getting
buildable
in front
anyway.
of the hotel,
You want to give them enough,
yeah.
visual to, out toward the Jordan.
So I think it'd be, getting more color on what you would want with that, because something like that would fit better in the commercial area with other buildings that are similar use. From what I understand, I'm not sure what you want the land for. though.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. If we had the property down by 248, we could possibly use a piece of that if it made sense, so that the town would potentially could put up a, 2-story, office building and make money on that. So that would be a moneymaker.
Right.
For us more than anything. I don't think, whereas the lookout area would be more, kind of the park
Yeah.
amenity, kind of thing. So we're just weighing.
I do feel like we did speak to a event expert who actually has a lot in Golden Eagle, and she was really excited about the lookout area for wedding venues in summer. So I do think there's a potential to rent or lease out the lookout area for.
And I think that's probably, I mean, it's a great thing for that.
With
Yeah.
the,
Different.
with the restaurant and a banquet type facility already going to be in the
To go
commercial.
down and then have
So,
dinner there, yeah. The moment, yeah.
So that's where we're going.
Okay.
On our last meeting, I kind of shared a little bit about, but so we're still, but we don't want to put this out forever here and not
Yeah.
come to some agreement. So, now it's input for everyone else.
So, Ralph, I mean, one of the things you mentioned is we do have some ideas of things we'd like to do in support of the municipality, not necessarily on the Bloom project, but at the Triangle parcel and some things like that. So, some cash dedication has value as well, because it helps us fund front-end loading for those kinds of things, right? Because we don't always have the means to do development work that we want to do. So I think
That's why we're thinking that combination,
so I'm okay. My mind is okay. Well, it doesn't have to be inside the Bloom space. It has to give us the mechanism to go do the things you were just talking about somewhere in the town. It could be on the other half of their parcel. When they get there, it could be, down on one of our parcels. It could be something else, but at least it
gives us latitude to take some of the money to do something.
do something.
In the appropriate spot that the town needs, yeah.
To go to, a lot of times, like an over underpass is something that you can often get grant money for, but you have to match. So, it'd be a way to do some matching funding if we went after certain things like that. So that's.
I just want to make sure whatever we do benefits Bloom. So the contribution should be for the Bloom and the town on something that benefits Bloom. So I don't think the contribution should be money for the town to go do something else. Like the essence is we're doing this. Polly, can you help me out here? Was that Polly that talked?
Well, don't forget, it benefits the town, it benefits Bloom too, even if it's done someplace else. Because if we don't have that mechanism that's in place, like we're doing with these two other parcels, we're serving the town, but in not the same place that the land is contiguous with the original development.
I think we've talked to you about.
What I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm happy to benefit the town. I just want to know what the rules are. I'd love Polly to tell us what the rules are on a contribution.
I mean, I think that it has to be a holistic benefit to the town, and it's, the impacts of much more dense project. The town, there can be things given in order to mitigate. And so that's what the town can look at. So there's no prohibition against there being money given, because the money can be used for other things in the town. Something like, I know originally there was some talk about using funds to help put an underpass, because you would be increasing density there and trying the connectivity of the town. So you're trying to address some of the negative impacts of the project.
Right, so we're happy for you guys to choose whatever you want to choose. I mean, it's just a line item at that point, right? Of knowing what it is, when it's going to be. So for us, it's more understanding how you decide that, and we don't want it to be a 6-month process, right? So how can we help create the essence of this so we can get this one final point in? And is there wording broad enough that you can choose in 4 years, depending on what is relevant to the town, the point? We want you to have the choice. We want you to do what's best for the town. So just working out, is there a way to do an essence of that in a document? So it doesn't have to be decided in a day, but we can keep moving through.
So my 2 cents as a resident, going down on, the lower Hideout side, like Reflection Ridge, the roundabout, there's that little park there. And I see people there almost year round. It's more probably a dog park at this point. It's not,
HOA property.
yeah, it's not, there's not a lot of amenities there, but people are there, right? They walk there, they congregate there, they talk there, which is nice. And I think that in our area in the mountains, it's hard to find a flat area, right? We don't have many flat areas on this property or this side of the road. I feel like this lookout is an amazing view that showcases Hideout, that showcases Park City, why we love this land. A park or a gathering place to me seems of a high value there. So I also, so if it was me voting as a resident, I'd be like, I would love a place to go to that has a nice view and a place to congregate. Then I also understand the town has other needs, so maybe a hybrid or something like that.
That's what I was saying, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, a bit of a hybrid,
Yeah.
so, so we can have some, if you're gonna improve something, you have to have some cash to do that.
That makes sense.
One big thing for me at least is, the problem, that's why I didn't want all cash, because we've been spending down our cash in ways that, so land gives you at least the ability to have something nice for the residents, as opposed to just cash. Don't want to get into a scenario again where we're just spending down our cash and getting nothing that's long lasting for the town. So that was why the land came back, and I think so if we can do something together around that concept, I'd say that makes a lot of sense.
There's gonna be roughly 350 units approved in Golden Eagle. There's 120 keys here, so we're looking at, 470, homes, units, places for people to live. And there's nothing on their side of the street, so there is some value to think about, how do we serve them? There's not much here, but it's a lot easier to get to the state park from here than it is from their side, so.
We have about 216 or somewhere, because we have 120 in the hotel and then the townhomes and stuff, but
Right,
so,
yeah.
right, so it's even more.
So it's
You've
more,
got
so it's
600, 700 people.
Whatever.
And you would like all the trails to connect into there.
It only
You know,
benefits our
and,
commercial,
if they
right?
do
It
bike
benefits
rides,
us.
they can walk,
Yeah, so
Take
there's some,
walk your dog.
there's some value in thinking about that.
And when
As you
he,
guys work on this.
Yeah.
Cause
I think we're getting closer. I think,
Yeah.
Because we don't want to spend a year figuring out fine tuning this. And I think that's where your wording, what can we do to put the right wording in place so that we have some flexibility, but we're getting to the point where it's good amenities for the town.
yeah,
It
and a
will
little bit of
reflect that
cash,
with the
yeah.
development. And, can we get Justin and Polly to write that up here or what?
Yeah, done. Polly's on it. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much. We'd love to hear if anyone.
yeah, we've been talking because we're in the room, so let's stop and let council have a chance to, weigh in on their part.
Okay, could I talk? I have some comments to make. This is Carol.
Hey, Carol.
Okay. I like your ideas about, doing outside activities, but I want to caution everyone that we are in a situation where it is winter 6 or 7 months a year. You're talking about outside amenities that would be useful to town residents for maybe 4, possibly 5 months a year. They're really amenities that are only useful for a limited time. Then I want to go back to the surveys that the town did. And if I remember correctly, it seems that the major thing that the people in town wanted, and this is a few years ago before the pandemic, but everyone was talking about a town center, a community center, or a clubhouse that could be used year round. And I still think that that is an issue that the town wants to see developed. And I don't know if your property is a good place for it because it is hilly. But, you know, we keep talking to different developers and say, this is what the town wants. They want a town center, community center, clubhouse, something enclosed that could be used year round. Like there's a lot of developments all along 248 that have that amenity. They have a clubhouse or a town center. We do not, and we are larger than a lot of these communities. So my focus again is if you're going to provide amenities for the town, think about something that is useful year round rather than 4 or 5 months a year.
And just to bring up the commercial area, we would love that to be year round and to feel indoor outdoor. So we'll have covered outdoor spaces. I want to just let you guys know that we do have our first accepted LOI on a commercial partner for that area. And I just think it's important to talk about now because it's the vision of community is why this wonderful company has jumped in on the vision. So I think I'm sharing that Yellow House Bakery has accepted an LOI to be the bakery in Bloom. That's Deborah in between Katie and I. She flew in from North Virginia. It's a very successful brand in North Virginia. They own a Golden Eagle lot and they want to make this their forever home. And she wants to have her brick and mortar store and expand here, and having it right by her she's so happy. She's been on all these meetings. We didn't know until the last meeting. She reached out, she said she's flying in to meet with us. Her dream is to make this a community gathering place, and she wants to meet all her friends and neighbors. We brought some for you.
This is my job. Hold on, I do have a job here. I am quite involved, by the way, but you can tell why she talks just much better.
And you made that yourself?
I'm married too. Yeah, right. So what we did is we brought a little bread for those that are here in attendance. That, you know, maybe if we keep doing this, we'll fill the room. You know, since we have a community meeting place, just no one's here.
But yeah, chocolate chip pumpkin bread is like the Woodland Biscuit Company.
Sure.
It's like something that you will go and have memories with and think about. She'd love to supply the cabins and the Airbnbs and do a Friday little gift basket and have them in there. She also does online ordering. So her delivery business actually will fund this as we increase our density. So she's very excited to be there from day one, have a brick and mortar, but is in it to work with us. So having said that, that's where, Carol, I just wanted to talk to you about the commercial being a community space. Maybe there's a portion in there that may be part of your suggestion where the community can support the commercial, but also have it their own space as well. So I don't know if that's something in there. I just wanted to mention that we really would love it to be a community hub, even though it's commercial and not owned by the town. It's definitely starting on the right footnote with a community member having a place in there as well.
Yes, and that's not the only Golden Eagle residents that's come to us about starting a business in the commercial. We've had a couple other inquiries also.
Yeah, and that makes the other piece of property down by 248 that we were talking about maybe more valuable. Thanks. I'm dying to have a piece of this to see what it tastes like.
This is the zucchini.
I built this
Sweet
version.
one.
So, you know.
I'm hoping you didn't all eat a lot so I could take the chocolate chip banana one myself.
I didn't have dinner coming over either, so. Anyway.
Well, here, we'll send a loaf home with you.
So Carol, we love that suggestion and would love if we can be a part of the vision or if that's part of it. Yeah.
So one thought is, if we take that space, you know, we could build for a meeting center, town center, not a town center, but a meeting, community center, I guess it's called. That is not a high-rise building. It could go in there. You know, we could.
Exactly.
You could build something that could hold, you know.
That was a thought
you
process
know,
as we were
80
talking.
80 people or 120 people, some number like that.
It has to gel with the hotel and everything
Yeah.
down in that section,
You know,
and that was the big question mark, you know.
That's a good point.
Plus the
I wouldn't want to compete with the hotel.
Yeah.
I want them to generate the revenue that, so they can.
So
Yes,
there's
so-
other options too is, I mean, if we have we're talking about having a breakfast place that might be able to be used for functions in the evening, or is there a venue that would hold 80 to 120 people for a wedding? What if the town had a budget to rent that out so that that is a space they don't need to build, but it's just okay, the town has X amount of credits a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's
To
like
rent out.
agreement with the partners that
Yeah,
we get, 100 room nights or whatever
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
And I would just, factor in that equation for the town to build a building that costs money, that's capital.
Yeah.
Upkeep,
Yeah.
utilities, staffing.
Yeah.
If there are banquet facilities or places
Exactly.
here that fill that need and it costs you 500 for a night, whatever the number is, that's a lot less of a liability than having a building.
Yeah.
Not saying you shouldn't, but there's just
No, it's
another
a
way to
very good
maybe
point.
look at it in different options.
Very good point.
And we have other options for a kind of a town center that we're looking at through this RFP that we have floating, RFP that we have floating. So we're not totally restricted, but yeah, I think Carol brought up absolute great point, because that's what we think we're going. Can we do something with the right piece of property? And the two pieces we're looking at was, okay, we've got open space up here, and you hit it without us even saying it. And the second thing was, is there a piece down by 248 that the town could take advantage of, either commercially or something like this, where it's a town, somewhat of a town center,
So let's see if Chris, you haven't weighed in yet. Love to get your thoughts. So I know you're on the committee. You may have weighed in with these guys already, but we haven't heard them.
And
So
I'll just, if I could, 30 seconds for Carol, is because we have nothing here, it's like we're stuck, right? You can't even go to dinner with your friends at a place, and I feel like we've designed the commercial area so it's walkable, you can go from shop to shop, where it's, kind of a pseudo town center that way, so if you want to go to dinner with your friends, you can go there and meet there. And so that is our high level vision for it, so I think it will take some of that stress off that need to have a community center.
Carol, any more on your side? I'm sorry, I thought you.
No,
Raise-
I mean,
raise-
I just really, I'm gonna keep fighting to try to get a town center, community center for our town. I mean, I just think that's
I'm with you on that.
critical.
I think it makes sense. Yeah. But I was saying, there may be a way to leverage to do that in a temporary fashion through the development here until the other developments come forward that we were talking about, possibly pointing it at. So something to think about as you work on it.
Yeah, almost like we're doing with the fire station.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a tent before you get to the permanent.
Which could work with your idea of the public space outdoors with some money that could be a credit to use for that, or
Yeah.
using the facilities for, there's a way to do that.
All right, Mayor, since you called on me, I love the fact that Carol continues to fight for this and remind us what we don't have. And we look down the road at some of the unincorporated HOAs, and they've got park space, they've got community centers, we've actually gone over there and done events and such at other HOAs, community centers, right? But we don't have anything here. So I know those are good ideas, Jenny, about, sometimes it's better to rent than own, right? Because it's capital. And I think, Ryan, you said that, but it's still a need for us. And it is I am very grateful that Carol is hanging on to this and fighting for it, because we need something. And I don't know if we're going to cover any of that, when we all get together, but We need something. And I sure it'd be great to hang out in a coffee shop and some other commercial area, but it's not the same thing Carol is advocating for. We're talking about more like indoor flex space that can be used year round, that, you know, and I don't know where this could be. Maybe you've got some other ideas considering what you're contemplating for the commercial areas, but we still need something.
Thank you, Chris.
So, we hear you for sure. I think this may or may not be the place, and, you know, we don't know yet, but maybe it's a high level of what that community center needs to look like. How big does it need to be? What do you want a workout facility? You know, what does that look like? You know, maybe it gets incorporated here. All those facilities are paid for by HOAs, so something pays for it. The town would pay for it. Maybe it's a private, you know, public partnership, something, but some kind of color around what that facility would need, how large it would be, would probably be helpful.
That's fair. You know, some use cases, what we want to use it for, you know, what should it look like? How many people should it accommodate? Yeah, no, it's a perfectly fair, and we should come back with something.
Chris, I'd be happy to work with you on that, you know.
All right, Carol.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk tomorrow or the weekend
Okay.
or next week, whenever you have a moment.
All right.
Thanks.
So where do you guys want to go from here? Sounds like we got some ideas. We're getting a little closer, maybe.
Yeah, so we would love, our goal would be to have an MDA that you could vote on next meeting. To do that, these are just the two essence points. So if we could have some subcommittees until then to work on that. The PID is really just, I guess, your comfort internal and getting the research and things like that. But this final is just the give is the final point. The MDA, we are so a team on. Like, I've been so impressed with everyone on the town. I hope they've been impressed and seen that we're really working with them too. But it's so close. It's so close. And so that's where we would love to go from here, is just how we can help you come back to us with something for this contribution, so we can say yes and go running and build this beautiful development for you guys.
Well, I think we have to regroup. We're doing that, tomorrow, I believe. Thomas is on it. So, I think we regroup, we can put back in the considerations and we, you know, share that. But I think having flexibility here, you know, would be really good, because Carol has some great, you know,
Right.
excellent points as to, you know, hey, you know, the open land might just give, but we need land to put something on that's a community center too. So it just may not be in the same spot as, you know, the Lookout. Simply because I think we don't want to block anything, and that may be better served in the long run
Right.
for open space. So, you know, there's no prohibition against that. But if we're gonna lean into if we're gonna lean into more of a center, I'd say then we have to look at the other parcels to understand what makes sense. And, you know, what that size might be. As an example, what's your contribution on that? What's the town's contribution on that? You know, because I don't think we have all that data either, but those are the other amenities that we need.
Ralph, it occurs to me that we have some language that we put together in an MDA package for the annexation that's still being contested, but
that's true.
And it gives us some flexibility on how some of that space gets used. That might be worth reviewing and see if that helps you guys think of a way to put the flex in that you're looking for. Because there's some stuff in there that, you know, the town would get X at some point in the progress and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was a combination of, if you remember, land.
Right.
It was a combination of money.
Yeah.
And a town
That's the thing,
center.
but there's some language in there that allows you to think about how to space it out without defining exactly what it all was. It might be useful to review that, that's all.
So no, it makes total sense. Yeah.
So I think next step is Ralph is gonna internally lead some conversations and then get back to us, and then Polly and Justin will work their magic on making the essence as open, but, on a route that everyone wants.
So this is, listed as a public hearing, and so if council's good, I'm gonna open up for, input from anyone else who's on the phone who wants to give some input on this project, by using, sorry?
Sorry, I just want to mention too, that the rezone is also a public hearing. It probably will be conditioned on the MDA, but would be slightly different. So you can open up the public hearing as to both matters. They're so intricately tied together. But just to make sure that clear that that's also part of the public hearing.
Right. Yeah, the rezone that allows the project to get built is part of the whole basis, you're right. So thank you. So yes, so I'm opening the floor for anyone on the phone who has questions of either Jenny and Ryan or the town on this particular proposal as we know it so far. So I'm not seeing hands. So. Yes. We're still waiting for the final package the folks are still waiting to see the final proposal before they weigh in. So I guess I will close the public input on this one. Paul, I guess we also need to continue to the next session based on the fact that these guys are proposing they're going to do some more work and bring something forward.
Yep, you would want to continue the public hearing to January 15th.
Okay, so we need a motion to continue the public hearing to a date certain being January 15th, 2024.
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Al. Okay, thank
Either one.
thank you, Carol. Okay, Chris, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. With that, Bob, I don't know if you're still on.
Amazingly enough, yes, and I vote yes.
All right. Carol
Yes.
and Ralph, yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys for
Thank you.
Thank you.
and for the goodies.
Yeah.
Allow me to get through the next half hour. Did Alicia get some? Okay.
Yeah, you want?
Okay, we gotta keep her. Okay, thank you guys for coming in, all your efforts on this.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ralph and Chris for all your efforts helping with that. We do appreciate it. It's great. The next thing we have is committee updates. I think they'll be relatively quick. There is nothing for the planning commission. As I understand, because they hadn't had a meeting, so there's nothing new there. So we'll go right to Thomas on the DRC.
Mayor, there's nothing on the DRC. The projects that have been approved are moving forward, so nothing there. And you're right on the planning commission. The last recommendation was for the MDA for Bloom and the rezone. So yeah, nothing on that front either.
Thomas, well, I'm thinking of, would you let Tony know that the proposals for the renewals of the members and Joel was approved by council? So
I'll
he
do
can
that.
start planning.
Definitely. Yep. Thanks.
All right. Chris, anything on the post committee?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. The post committee met on November 28th. We had Jason Whitaker, who joined us. He's the park manager at Jordanelle State Park. Tim Dixon also was a guest. That's the town engineer. And then we had our regular committee members, Rachel, Carol, who's joined our committee, Kathleen, John, and Jan came a little bit later. So we focused first on the drainage issues in the park. So anybody who's been in the park knows that some of the trails that we built a few years ago were flooded and muddy. So Glenn Gabler from Shoreline got engaged with Tim and Jason from the park, and they worked on at least a temporary fix to, I think, involve some pipe installation. But when what they've done currently is possibly not the permanent fix to the problem. So I think they're going to have to evaluate that again in the spring. So it's not done yet, and I know there's going to be some trail rebuilding and maintenance that's going to have to follow once they get the water situation under control. We also had a discussion about the potential local park pass, but we did not come to any conclusions. So we did talk about a survey to see if the town residents would be supportive of a local Jordanelle State Park pass. And when we say that, we mean that this would be the kind of park pass where everyone would get a park pass and have to pay for it. We don't know how much it would be, but it would be only for the state park. And for those folks who don't realize or don't know much about Jordanelle State Park, you pay for use at the park. It's not free, and you're not just paying for parking. You're paying a day use fee. So even if you walk in or bike in, you're supposed to have a park pass. So when we talked about some funding for projects that we want to do, and one of the ideas that seemed to generate the most interest from the park manager was actually establishing a nonprofit. So we have a little bit of follow-up to do on that. Thomas was taking the lead. We talked about winter trail grooming. So some people might be interested in that. So, Jason was telling us about the limitations of their current equipment. So we agreed to help him with some contacts. So Carol has a follow-up with White Pine, and John was following up with the trail builder over at the Coyote Network. And I also sent a link, or it's actually a video, over to Jason, the park manager, about a particular grooming machine that's, like a stand behind groomer. You just kind of ride it. It makes a tiny little, like a single track for bike riding. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, we're trying to get him hooked up with the right contacts so that it's possible to do some kind of grooming over in the state park in the Ross Creek area. Meantime, Kathleen and John volunteered to do a trial to see if they could get trail markers in the ground, because at the time it was already cold and the ground seemed frozen, but they were able to do it. So meantime, they've ordered 100 4-foot poles that I think there's going to be an effort to mark Waterway East. So there's a little bit of drilling and then pole installation. Not because we're certain that we're going to be able to groom trails there, but without marking them, we will certainly not be able to groom the trails. So the park manager agreed that we could go ahead and mark them. So that's as far as we got with that meeting, but we did cover quite a bit in an hour. Our next meeting isn't going to be until January, and that'll be sometime after the retreat. And so I'll be able to report out probably in February. Will be the next trail report.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Sounds like a lot of good work. Thanks to you and the committee for all our efforts. Yes, I mean, Jason's obviously aware of this, but you can get an entire, at my age anyway, you can get an entire state park annual pass for $65. So whatever they're looking for, they gotta think about that. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just get the state park pass?
It's exactly right, Mayor. A discussion went a little bit round and round about, well, how much money do you actually need? But the difference is the local pass. So when you buy your state park pass, the revenue that they generate goes to the overall park system, and then it gets distributed however they distribute. But we're talking about the local pass. So any money spent on that would go directly to Jordanelle State Park for for their trail building, trail maintenance, and other projects that, you know, that would be specific for this park. So you're really helping your local park. So that's the difference between the passes. And like I said, you know, we're just not sure. And this is where we wanted to do a survey. But we haven't figured out the survey language yet. We haven't been able to work on it because we don't know exactly what we were asking of our residents, except, you know, would you be in favor of, you know, spending money for a local park pass? And what would you get out of it? Well, you'd get more stuff available to take advantage of in your local park. So yeah, we're not there yet. It's not as easy as it seemed when we first proposed this like a year or more ago. It's, you know, it's quite nuanced, and so we have to figure this out.
I understand. Okay, thanks. Let's go on. Carol, the bus opening, the banner was driven through the other morning, so very exciting.
Right. So I am going to send something to Carol Custerly that she can put in the next newsletter. Basically, it's quite a bit of information. So I'm thinking maybe the best thing I can do is just have it be the website or how they can access it in Park City. But the wonderful thing is we're actually going to have 3 buses running, or 3 different lines running from Richardson Flat into town. The gray bus will be running to Park City Mountain. The brown bus will be running to Deer Valley. And then the silver bus will continue to run in the evening. And just very briefly, there's a great time spread. The gray and the brown buses start either at 5:45 or 5:30 in the morning, and they go until approximately 6 o'clock in the evening, and then pretty much the same thing on the return. And then the silver bus will start at Richardson Flat at 6:45 p.m. and it will run into town until 10:45. And then the last bus that you can pick up coming back out of town is 11:05 p.m. And then that will deposit you at Richardson Flat. So there's 3 possible buses that our residents can take. I'm not going to pursue any further getting private companies because I think that it's not that difficult to drive to Richardson Flat, park there, and then you can get into town 3 different ways. So I'll send that information to Carol Custerly. And does anybody have any questions?
Very exciting. We're excited to use it.
Right. And do you agree that I shouldn't pursue any more private transportation?
I think that's, in my opinion, that's reasonable. I think, you know, everybody here has cars or they couldn't live here.
They couldn't live here. Exactly. Yeah.
So to drive, you know, 4 miles or 3 miles to here versus in and out of town and all the traffic and sitting on 248 in the morning versus letting the bus go up the bus lane is fine with me.
Right. And the wonderful thing is it's free. Doesn't cost a penny.
And it's kind of a win. We spend less miles and all I need is Richardson Flat to put in an EV charger and I'll be in really good shape.
That'd be great.
That'll have to happen eventually. But
yeah,
Mayor, there is one you know, constituent group that we're really not representing. You know, we're I don't know about, you know, the workforce, the people that are working the workforce that are at the Todd Hollow or Deer Mountain Affordable Community. They may have some special needs. We're really not taking into account, but I don't know what they are.
That's a great idea. Carol, you think you can work with Jan and reach out to them and see what, if you know, what would be helpful for them? Would a shuttle, a van that took them to Richardson Flat, at least, you know, that short distance circulating at certain times of the day. I mean, they have the bus that stops from Camas on their stop, but that
right
isn't necessarily ideal either. So It'd be worth exploring. I like that thought, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
it's just, some people that do work in town and maybe they don't get off till late. And I've heard, this was old news, but I heard, challenges. Yeah, they could take the Camas bus in, but they can't get home because it doesn't run late enough. So it sounds like the bus does run late enough to Richardson Flat for some people. And then how do we get them from Richardson Flat back to the apartments? If there's a need for that, and I don't know what the need is, but I think that would really tie it up for the rest of the town as far as, how to best utilize this new service.
Okay.
Great thought, Chris. Really good ad. Thank you. Ralph, is there anything you want to talk about from the EDC?
I'm kind of zeroed in on
I
it.
did. Yeah, I just did.
Yeah, the only other thing is we're working on, we jointly with Jonathan and Tony and the planning, and we're looking, the EDC is combined to have a couple of meetings around what is kind of the RFI input. So how do we judge that? How do we go forward? What are some next steps? So we've had a couple of meetings, 2 or 3 meetings around that very recently, and we've had different input. The input varies from a consulting kind of proposal to, we're also trying to figure out with what is the next step? Is it a pure RFP? Is it something in between, something we can even hand off to a consulting company that's either bid on the RFI, or that may be some, in between player that can provide us guidance on what's the best use of this property. Could we make it more dense? Could we make it to Carol's point, maybe that's where we have the town center, because that is more center, so to speak, of the town. And can we combine that with a richer set of commercial? The problem is that may take a while to get to. And I think to respect what we're trying to accomplish with what do we do now? I don't know how many years that might be. It might be 3 years before we really start developing that property. So if we can get something, that's more immediate with the Bloom scenario, that will help, town facility or whatever that might be, town center. I don't know. What you don't want to do is double dip and put something that, a year from now, it's going to be in another place, unless you can sell that property for, some money. So those are some of the questions and issues we're going through, not too dissimilar to what we've just been talking about, And we don't even know, when does the final, when do the courts come through on the annexation? Is that tomorrow?
No.
No, we don't. That's, we have,
Another court, okay. When is the annexation?
We don't have a date, Ralph.
They don't have a firm date on that yet?
No.
it's up to the
We're
Supreme Court of Utah. They cannot be rushed. It's up to them.
Yeah, so in terms of back to bias for action, we've got to move on some things that we know about now, rather than thinking about what might happen, a year from now, we can't control,
If they gave us the go ahead tomorrow, Ralph, we'd still have lawsuits for another 3 years.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So back to the point of the RFI, the RFP, I think, is our absolute next step to figure out what happens to, the core development of the town. Because we own that property, we have the right to move it forward in the way we want to move it forward, and seek out the right developer with the right amenities in there that will reflect like some of the things that Carol just said, because but we might be able to do that up on the Bloom property. We might also consider what options we have with the 10 acres. So,
Sounds like you guys hit your hands full for a little bit.
you know, it's a juggling act. You know, it's time, money, what's in front of you, versus what do we think we can get?
Yeah, and I like your thought, Ralph, that it could be two phases. It could be we talked about some ideas for a temporary phase, with just putting some pads down and some power and, bringing in food trucks or whatever, and some picnic tables and doing X, and then, 2 years from now, having a full-blown plan of how we're gonna move it from that to something else.
Yeah, we have to move on this as quickly as possible too. I know there's a lot, but if we just do nothing.
No, we can't, no.
We said
need
do
to-
nothing, you know?
No, we need to do something, because it's our prime space for revenue generation, so, and we need it. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks to all for the committee, all of you on the committee, and the folks that are helping me. Let's move to item 7, it's approval of council minutes. Once again, want to publicly, oh, heck, I missed what I was reading. That's fine, never mind, reading wrong there. But thanks to Alicia for the great job she's doing and getting us really close to caught up. Maybe even one more plus tonight.
Plus tonight,
Yeah. So,
and the Kansas meeting. But still caught up.
yeah, the canvas meeting is pretty short. All right, so, we have 3 sets of minutes to sign off on. I'm gonna take input on them individually, but I'll do the motion to accept all 3 of them at once. Unless there's something that comes up in the input that suggests we can't do that. So I won't motion 3 times. So, I personally did read the right ones, and I think she did a great job. I don't have any particular comments, to change anything that I looked at. Open it to council on June 8th, 2023, June 30th, 2023, and November 8th, 2023.
I have a couple corrections.
Go ahead, Carol.
And Alicia, I hope I'm doing it the right way that you told me to do it. So let's see, it would be the minutes of November 8th. Both my corrections are for November 8th. And I looked at the bottom like you showed me, and it would be page 2 of 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can follow that.
And a
Okay.
line number.
And it's lines 4 to 6. And you were quoting me or saying something that I'd said, and I'd like that to read differently. I'll put down what I think it should be changed to. She expressed difficulty in the expectation that council members had adequate time to read the council packets when they were sent out to council members 24 hours prior to the town council meeting. It wasn't about just last minute things. It was, the point I was trying to make was that we didn't get that packet until 24 hours before the meeting. And I don't want to belabor this. I know it's been resolved, but I want it read into the minutes that that was my issue.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. I mean, I just worded it that way. You could word it however, but it wasn't just, I abstain not because of a last minute thing. It was that the whole packet came so late and I didn't have time to read it.
Absolutely valid, Carol. And
Okay.
I-
And
you know,
then the other
just sorry.
correction, is just an insertion of a word. So it would be page 7 of 10, line 40. And I think it should read focus on early communication instead of focus early communication.
Early commercial development. Okay.
Okay, those are my corrections.
Thanks. You know, by the way, I neglected to mention, and I should have, that Alicia worked really hard with the team to get the whole package out last Friday. So
That was Polly and Tom.
kudos to Alicia and Polly and Thomas for getting their inputs in a way that gave you all time to review the package. So kudos to the staff for working so hard to do that. And
Absolutely.
I hope you all recognize that it came much earlier than it has been.
Right. And it was so helpful. I really want to make a comment. I mean, I was able to take my time to read through everything, and I felt really prepared for this meeting. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, can't thank you guys enough. Any other comments from council members on the minutes? I have one follow-up when we get to that. Okay. But not on the actual content of my language. No, great job. Can't believe we're almost caught up.
I know.
Technology is great. People are greater. Yeah.
I just have one item. I just have to find it. Alicia, Katie Shepley is a financial consultant, right?
Yes.
You called her a financial officer just in one reference. I'm looking for it. And I just did, oh, there it is. It's using what Carol just did, page 3 of 8.
Which minutes? The last
Looking
one?
at June 8th.
Oh.
Sorry, it wasn't. It was on June 8th. Page 3. And right at the top, the line 2.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Thank you,
I just wanted to make sure you're using the same title consistently. Thank you. That's all. I don't know if
Thank
it
you,
matters.
Chris. Good pickup. It matters. So thank you for that.
I'd asked Jen 3 times probably, what are we calling Katie? So it may have changed between one or the other, I don't know.
No, that's okay. I don't want to, but then thank you. Getting this on Friday was amazing.
Oh.
Thank you. And thanks everyone who helped make it happen.
Mostly thanks to Polly and Thomas. They are amazing.
Yeah,
Polly Thomas, thank you.
Big contributors to this one, for documentation, so. All right, then I'd like to see a motion to approve the council meeting minutes of June 8th, 2023, June 30th, 2023, and November 8th, 2023, with the changes addressed in this session.
I'll move.
Thank you, Carol.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you, Chris. Okay. Ralph? Yes. Approved, yes. Bob? Approved?
Yes.
Thank you. Carol?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Thank you all. Minutes are approved, and thanks again to the folks that did all their effort to get this stuff done. At this point.
Can I ask one question?
Oh, sorry, Ralph, that's right, you did say.
Yeah,
questions, okay.
there, on page 8 of 10, on the last set of minutes, November 8th. And it's relevant because, it reflects getting some input on the, EV facilities on the Bloom property. And since we're in this last throw, have we received anything from Don? Because the notes here, we want to make sure that gets factored in because Jenny and Ryan have said they would have all consideration, but if we don't have some input from somebody as to what that might look like, then we might not get what we want. You haven't seen him
Do a follow-up?
Yeah, at least, just to.
Send an email and say, hey, are you gonna do this? Because we're running out of time. The other question I've got.
I think we'll get what we want, but if he has any specifics,
I don't know, I mean, I'm curious if the state has any language now for, in their code for building new, public parking, what percentage needs to be EV or whatever. I know a lot of things are grandfathered, but I'm thinking that new stuff might have language.
You would think, is Thomas still on? Yeah,
Yeah, Thomas, any thoughts on that? Have you heard anything about that? If you're still listening.
I am still listening. With regard to what, Mayor?
I wondered whether or not we had seen municipalities or the state change public parking, do public parking space codes so that some percentage are dedicated to EV, given the direction that everything's going. I wondered, I know that older places are grandfathered, but I'm thinking they might put language together for new stuff.
I haven't seen any new language. I'll do some research on that, but I haven't seen any new language come out at the state level.
Yeah, likewise, I haven't heard of there being any requirements. But if the town wanted to pass an ordinance to do that, we could do that for new.
Yeah, there's certainly home rule opportunities so that the town could do it, but I haven't seen anything from the state, but again, I'll research.
So coincidentally, there was, I attended a state webinar today on the issue of parking. It is a topic at the league right now, and I can get some follow-up information for that.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, what would be useful, even if we don't have state regulation or whatever.
I'm trying to save us some work.
Yeah, it just like if we can get, what's acceptable right now, Thomas? You know, do we have something that we could provide guidance to Bloom? Because, you know, if this project moves forward, we'd like to include that as part of the, requirements.
Absolutely, and we've discussed that with Bloom because that was brought up by the council at a prior meeting with regard to incorporating EV charging. So we can do that, and we have the right to do that relative to an MDA with or without ordinance. Just so you all know.
Right, but what we should find out, Thomas, is what's appropriate. You know, so we're not asking for 50 of the, chargers, but we're asking for what's a good number, as the mayor was just saying, percentage wise.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Wells Plaza has 4, I think, maybe 6. In Bob Wells Plaza, parking spot right below City Hall. There's like 6 spots there that are hooked up for EV. I don't know what's in China Bridge as far as EV. Whether there's anything in there yet. Last time I was in there, I didn't see anything. But there may be some things we can get ideas from.
Yeah.
So
I'll pull those numbers together.
Yeah, I'm sure
Okay,
that
thanks.
practices, that's, I think it's gotten much more standard.
Okay, we do have a need to go into executive briefly. And so I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public portion of the meeting and go into executive. I'm sure you all want a bio break, but it's gonna be very short, so I'd like to just go into it and get it over with so we can get out of here. If that's okay with everybody. But start with a motion to close public and move to executive.
I'll move.
Thank you, Ralph. Need a second for that?
I'll second.
Chris.
I was waiting, Carol, for you.
I was waiting.
Then I didn't wait long enough.
Thank you, Chris, on the second. That's all right.
Okay.
And so Carol, okay,
Okay.
thank you. Bob, if you're still on, okay. Are you there, Bob?
Say
I
again.
think he's. I want to know if you're okay with going to executive, closing the
Yeah.
public and moving to.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, Chris,
Yes.
thank you. And Ralph,
Yes.
thank you. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm going to ask that everyone who isn't a council member to leave the meeting. And if you don't, I will kick you out. So either way, it's gonna happen. Get it done.
Mayor, in the past, we've just concluded this meeting and then dialed in again. Are we doing something different this time?
Let's do that then.
Bye, Jonathan. See you soon.
Thanks, Jonathan. All right, we're gonna leave it and we'll all just